Reincarnated Devil King Naruto rolls up with power of destruction that makes everyone shit bricks. He claps enemies, revives powerful allies, ends wars, and collects badass shinobis for his peerage. Smiling while erasing gods, banging queens, and guaranteeing peace, this red-haired beast is the fucking final boss of what-ifs.
The first time Iruka Umino felt fear in a classroom, he was not facing a rogue ninja. He was not under attack. He was standing at his podium, chalk in hand, explaining the basic theory of chakra molding to 28 academy students. And the boy in the back row looked up at him. That was all. Red hair. Not the orange red of autumn leaves or the copper red of dried clay. Blood red. The deep arterial crimson of something alive and vital and dangerous, falling past his ears in loose waves that caught the light from the window and held it like a jewel holds fire. Eyes the color of ocean trenches. Blue so deep it was almost violet. Framed by lashes too long for a boy's face, set in features that belonged on a painting, not in a ninja academy in a village that had tried very hard to pretend this child did not exist. Naruto Uzumaki smiled at him. It was warm, genuine. The kind of smile that said, "I appreciate what you are doing, Iruka-sensei, and I want you to know that." Iruka's hand shook. The chalk snapped. He turned back to the board and did not look at the back row again for the rest of the lesson. He told himself it was nothing. It was everything. The village of Konohagakure had a problem it could not name. The third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, had a file on his desk that was thicker than the files he kept on most jonin. It was labeled simply, Uzumaki, Naruto. Inside were reports from Anbu operatives assigned to monitor the boy since age 3, and what those reports contained was not alarming in the way the council expected. There were no outbursts. No manifestations of the nine-tailed fox's chakra, no signs of instability. What there was, what kept Hiruzen awake at night with his pipe burning low, was worse. At age 4, a drunken villager had thrown a glass bottle at the boy's head in broad daylight. 3 witnesses reported the same thing. A sphere of red energy materialized in the child's palm. The bottle touched it. The bottle stopped existing. Not shattered, not vaporized. There was no sound, no heat, no debris to sweep up. The bottle was simply and completely gone, as though it had never been manufactured in the first place. The villager had collapsed. Not from any injury, from the primal, animal terror of watching something violate the laws of physics 3 feet from his face. Naruto had smiled at him. That same warm, polite smile. Then he'd walked away, hands in his pockets, humming a tune no one recognized. Hiruzen had read that report 7 times. He'd consulted every text on Uzumaki Keke Genkai he could find. He'd had Jiraiya examine the seal twice. Nothing explained it. The energy was not chakra. It did not register on any sensor's abilities. It existed outside of every framework the shinobi world had built to understand power. And the boy grew, and the boy smiled. And Hiruzen kept that file on his desk and understood, with the bone-deep certainty of a man who had lived through 3 wars, that this child was something the world had not seen before and was not ready for. At 12 years old, Naruto Uzumaki sat in the back of Iruka's classroom with the posture of someone who had nothing to prove and all the time in the world. His uniform was neat. His red hair was brushed. His expression was the patient, faintly amused look of a king attending a lecture on matters he mastered in another life. Because he had. The memories were not complete, not a perfect film reel of a past existence. They were impressions, feelings, the bone-deep certainty of absolute power, the knowledge of what he was and what he could do, written into his soul the way breathing was written into his lungs. He remembered warmth. He remembered a peerage, people who were his, completely and irrevocably, and the fierce joy of protecting them. He remembered being at the very top, looking down at creation and feeling not loneliness but responsibility. He remembered being Sirzechs Lucifer, the Crimson Satan, the strongest devil king to have ever existed, and now he was here, in a world of ninja, in a village that hated him for a fox sealed in his gut, a fox that did not dare make a sound inside its cage because it understood, on a level deeper than thought, that the soul it shared a body with could unmake it between one heartbeat and the next. Naruto found it funny, honestly. not the hate. The hate was boring. The funny part was that these people thought the fox was the dangerous thing about him. Naruto, are you paying attention? Iruka's voice cut across the room. Every head turned. Naruto looked up from where he'd been watching a bird on the windowsill and smiled. Always, Iruka-sensei. His voice was different from the other boys. No crack of puberty, no brash volume. It was smooth and warm, like aged wine poured into a crystal glass. Several of the girls in the front row shifted in their seats. Hinata Hyuga, 2 rows ahead and 1 seat to the left, turned bright pink and stared at her desk so hard she might have been trying to develop a new jutsu. Iruka swallowed. Then what did I just say? You were explaining the 3 conditions for water release without a nearby source. Chakra density above 40 units, nature transformation at the secondary coil, and atmospheric moisture content of at least 12%. Naruto tilted his head. Though if I'm being honest, the 12% figure is outdated. The second Hokage could pull water from vapor at 3%. It's a willpower threshold, not a scientific one. Silence. Iruka stared. Sasuke Uchiha, sitting in the front row with his hands clasped in front of his face, turned his head just slightly to look at the red-haired boy in the back. His eyes narrowed. Something uncomfortable moved behind them. Naruto's smile didn't change. Was I wrong? No, Iruka said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. No, you weren't wrong. After class, Naruto walked through the village with his hands behind his head and his face turned up to the sun. People stared. They always stared. Some with hatred. The old, familiar, stupid hatred of people who couldn't tell the difference between a cage and what it held. Some with a newer kind of unease, the instinctive, animal recognition that the thing walking past them in a boy's body was not something they should provoke. Naruto didn't mind either type. They were irrelevant to him. Background noise. What mattered was ahead. Ichiraku ramen. He ducked under the cloth banner and slid onto his usual stool. Tochi-san, Ayame ni. Naruto. Ayame's face lit up like sunrise. She was already reaching for his usual bowl. The miso special? With extra pork, I'm celebrating. What are you celebrating? Tochi asked, already working the noodles with the speed of a man who'd been doing this for 30 years. Being alive. Naruto set his chin in his hand. It's a good day for it. Tochi laughed. Ayame shook her head with a grin. These two had never looked at him with anything but warmth. From the very first day, a tiny red-haired boy had wandered up to their stand with coins clutched in small fingers, and the most heartbreakingly regal posture a 5-year-old had ever managed, they had treated him like family. Naruto did not forget that, ever. He was halfway through his second bowl when a presence appeared at the edge of his awareness. Soft, warm, flickering like a candle that wasn't sure if it was allowed to burn. Hinata. A squeak. Then she was there, standing at the entrance of the stand, her fingers pressed together, her pale eyes wide and her face the color of his hair. Nen Naruto-kun. I was just walking by and sit. He patted the stool beside him. Eat with me. She looked like she might faint. She also looked like she might burst into tears of happiness. She sat. I'm an E. One more miso special, please. On me. Naruto-kun, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. He turned that smile on her. Bat the full, warm, undiluted version that he reserved for the people he considered his. I want to. Hinata didn't speak for a full 10 seconds. Then she smiled back, tiny, radiant, and braver than anyone had ever given her credit for being. 3 things about Naruto Uzumaki that the academy instructors had noted in their evaluations and immediately wished they hadn't. 1. His taijutsu scores were perfect. Not good for his age, perfect. Perfect. He moved like water flowing downhill. No wasted motion, no telegraphing, no openings. When he sparred, he ended things in one move. Always one. Never more. As if using 2 would be impolite. 2. He had never been seen using ninjutsu in class. He performed the required techniques for examinations, clone jutsu, transformation jutsu, substitution jutsu, with a bored expression and flawless execution, and then he sat down. No one had ever seen him practice. No one had ever seen him struggle with a hand seal. It was as though jutsu were beneath him. 3. On 4 separate occasions, sensor-type instructors had attempted to measure his chakra reserves. On 4 separate occasions, their sensing abilities had returned results that made no logical sense. One instructor had described it as trying to measure the ocean with a teacup. Another had simply written, unable to quantify, and filed the report with shaking hands. The Hokage had read all of these. The Hokage had added them to the file. The Hokage had smoked an entire pack of tobacco that night. Graduation day. Naruto stood in the courtyard with his new headband tied around his forehead. The metal caught the sun. His red hair framed it like a crown frames a sovereign's brow. He looked in that moment like something out of legend, a figure meant for epic poems, not Genin exams. Around him, the other graduates celebrated. Parents hugged children. Families took photos. Sasuke stood alone against a tree, arms crossed, eyes fixed on Naruto with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Sakura argued with Ino about seating arrangements. Kiba howled. Shino stood very still and said nothing, which was normal. And Naruto smiled at all of them, his future comrades, his future responsibilities, his future family, and felt something ancient and warm settle in his chest like an ember finding its hearth. This is my world now, he thought. These are my people, and nothing in this world or any other will take them from me. Team assignments. Team 7, Iruka read. Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, your Jonin sensei is Kakashi Hake. Sakura pumped her fist. Sasuke said nothing. Naruto leaned back in his chair and allowed himself a small, knowing smile. Kakashi Hatake, the copy ninja, son of the White Fang, student of the 4th Hokage, who was, though the village had decided to keep it from him, Naruto's own father. Naruto already knew. Of course he already knew. The resemblance was on his face, though the red hair came from Kushina and the whisker marks came from Kurama's influence. The bone structure was all Minato. Anyone with eyes and half a brain could see it. He didn't care about the secret. He cared that they tried to keep it. It said something about this village, something he intended to change. Kakashi arrived 3 hours late. He leaned against the doorframe of the empty classroom with one eye visible and his body language suggesting he'd rather be anywhere else. My first impression of you guys is, you're late, Sakura said. That you're a bit boring, Kakashi finished. His visible eye tracked across the 3 genin and stopped on Naruto. It stayed there, because Naruto was not glaring, he was not pouting. He was not doing anything a 12-year-old should be doing after waiting 3 hours. He was sitting with one ankle crossed over his knee, his arm resting on the back of the chair beside him, looking at Kakashi with the patient, amused expression of someone who knew exactly why the Jonin was late and found the power play transparent and a little cute. Kakashi felt something cold slide down his spine. What the hell is this kid? Rooftop, 5 minutes. He vanished in a puff of smoke. Naruto stood, stretched, and walked toward the door. Sasuke followed. Sakura scrambled after them both. Introductions, likes, dislikes, hobbies, dreams. Kakashi leaned against the railing, his posture casual. I'll start. My name is Kakashi Hatake. I don't feel like telling you my likes and dislikes. Dreams, hobbies, I have many. That told us nothing, Sakura muttered. Pinky, you next. Sakura launched into a speech about Sasuke. Sasuke's eye twitched. Naruto watched with faint amusement. Brooding one? Go. My name is Sasuke Uchiha, Sasuke said. His voice was flat and sharp. I have few likes, many dislikes. My dream is not a dream, it's an ambition. I will kill a certain man and restore my clan. Heavy, Kakashi said. His eyes shifted. Red, you're up. Naruto stood. The wind caught his hair. He looked out over the village, the rooftops, the trees, the monument carved with the faces of 4 Hokage, and something in his expression made all 3 of his companions unconsciously lean back. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, he said. I like ramen, the sound of rain, and the handful of people in this village who saw a boy instead of a monster. I dislike those who mistake fear for strength, cruelty for power, and suffering for justice. He turned back to face them. His eyes were luminous. My dream is to build something in this world that cannot be broken. A family, a kingdom, a peace so absolute that no one I love will ever bleed again. The rooftop was silent. Sakura's mouth was open. Sasuke's hands had clenched into fists. Kakashi's visible eye had gone very, very wide. Because in that moment, just for a heartbeat, he hadn't been looking at a genin. He'd been looking at something that wore a genin's face the way a dragon might wear a coat. Well, Kakashi said, his voice impressively steady. That's certainly ambitious. Naruto smiled. It's not ambition, Kakashi-sensei. Ambition implies uncertainty about the outcome. He sat back down. I have none. The bell test. Kakashi stood in training ground 7 with 2 bells in his hand and the standard speech about teamwork on his lips. The 3 Genin stood before him. Sakura looked nervous. Sasuke looked hungry. Naruto looked like he was waiting for a mildly entertaining show to start. "Come at me with the intent to kill," Kakashi said, "or you won't." Naruto raised his hand. Kakashi blinked. "Yes?" "The test is about teamwork. We're supposed to work together to get the bells, realize there are only 2, and demonstrate that we value the team above individual success." He said it the way someone might read the answers off a cheat sheet. "So shall we skip to the part where you pass us? Or would you like me to demonstrate something first?" The training ground went dead silent. Kakashi stared at him. His hand holding the bells dropped an inch. Sasuke turned to look at Naruto with naked disbelief. Sakura made a noise like a deflating balloon. "How?" Kakashi said slowly. "Do you know that? Because it's obvious." Naruto tilted his head. 3 Genin, 1 Jonin, 2 bells. If you wanted to test individual combat ability, you'd fight us one at a time. If you wanted to test strategy, you'd give us a puzzle. 2 bells for 3 people is a social test. The answer is always teamwork. Kakashi lowered the bells completely. He looked at this 12-year-old boy, this red-haired, blue-eyed, impeccably composed boy, and felt the same thing Iruka had felt. It's the same thing the Hokage felt every time he opened that file. The absolute certainty that he was not the most powerful person in this clearing. "I'd like the demonstration," Kakashi said, because he needed to know. He needed to see it. Naruto's smile widened. "Are you sure? Try me." Naruto raised his right hand. He extended his index finger and pointed at a boulder 30 meters away, a massive stone slab, easily 15 tons, half buried in the earth. His fingertip lit up. It was red. Not fire red, not chakra red, crimson. The deep, absolute red of destruction itself, condensed to a point smaller than a marble, and the light it emitted was wrong. It didn't illuminate. It consumed. The shadows around his finger didn't retreat from the light. They deepened as if the world itself was flinching. "Crimson ruin," Naruto said. The beam left his finger. There was no sound, no explosion, no shockwave. The beam crossed the 30 meters in an instant and touched the boulder, and the boulder was not there anymore. Not destroyed, not shattered, not vaporized. The space where it had been was empty air and bare earth and absolutely nothing else. 15 tons of solid stone, gone from existence as though it had never been quarried, never settled, never existed at all. Kakashi's Sharingan was out. He didn't remember pulling up his headband. His enhanced eye was spinning wildly, trying to analyze what it had just witnessed and finding nothing. No chakra trail, no elemental residue, no trace whatsoever. His legs were shaking. Sasuke had taken 3 steps backward without realizing it. Sakura was on her knees. The birds had stopped singing. Naruto lowered his finger. The crimson light winked out. He turned back to his team with that same warm, gentle smile. "We pass, yes?" Kakashi nodded. He couldn't trust his voice. The days after the bell test were strange for Team 7. Sakura stopped fangirling over Sasuke. It was hard to obsess over a pretty boy when you'd watch the world stop making sense 30 meters in front of you. She threw herself into training instead, not because Naruto told her to, but because being near him made mediocrity feel like an insult. Sasuke stopped brooding in silence. He started watching Naruto with an intensity that shifted from rivalry to something more complicated, a mixture of frustration, respect, and a slowly growing realization that the ceiling he thought existed above all shinobi might not exist at all. Kakashi stopped being late. He arrived on time, prepared, and with training plans that were actually tailored to his students. Something about that demonstration had shaken loose the cynicism he'd been wearing like armor for 15 years. And Naruto? Naruto was exactly what he'd always been. Warm to his team, polite to strangers, unwavering in his presence. He trained with them, not because he needed to grow stronger, but because being present made them stronger. And that mattered to him. He was building his peerage, one person at a time, the land of waves. They received the mission 3 weeks into their active duty. C-rank escort. An old bridge builder named Tazuna who stank of sake and secrets. Naruto knew the man was hiding something within 10 seconds of meeting him. The tremor in his hands, the desperation behind his bluster, the way his eyes kept darting to exits. Naruto said nothing. He let it play out, They were 2 hours outside the village when the demon brothers attacked. 2 Chunin-level assassins erupted from a puddle on the road, bladed chains connecting their gauntlets, spinning like a saw between them, aimed directly at Kakashi. The chain wrapped around the Jonin, pulled. Kakashi burst into chunks of meat and bone. Sakura screamed. Sasuke pivoted, kunai drawn, body tense. Tazuna stumbled backward. Naruto didn't move. The demon brothers turned toward the genin. Their chains whipped through the air, and behind their breathing masks, their eyes were cold with professional focus. "Naruto!" Sasuke shouted. "Move!" "No need." Naruto extended his palm. A sphere of crimson energy, no larger than a tennis ball, materialized in the air in front of him. It hung there, rotating slowly, throwing off light that made the trees darken. The chain hit it. The chain ceased to exist. Not the section that touched the sphere. All of it. From gauntlet to gauntlet. 30 feet of weaponized steel links, gone between one blink and the next. The demon brothers stumbled forward, momentum suddenly unanchored, and stared at their empty hands. Naruto closed his fist. The sphere winked out. "You have 2 options," he said, his voice as relaxed as if he were ordering ramen. "Surrender and tell me who hired you, or I point at you instead of your weapon." He raised his finger. The tip began to glow crimson. "I'll count to 3. 1. They surrendered before he reached 2. Kakashi dropped from the tree where he'd been hiding, his substitution complete. He looked at the 2 restrained assassins. He looked at the melted gauntlets, the only pieces that remained, and even those were disintegrating at the edges. He looked at Naruto. "I had it handled." Kakashi said mildly, "I know." Naruto smiled. "But I was closer." Tazuna confessed everything. Gato, the shipping magnate turned crime lord, the bridge that would free Wave Country from economic slavery, the death threats, the hired killers. "We should turn back," Sakura said, and then immediately looked at Naruto as if waiting for him to decide. Everyone looked at Naruto, not Kakashi. Naruto, it happened without anyone consciously acknowledging it. He had not demanded authority. He had not undermined Kakashi. He simply existed with such gravity that people oriented themselves around him the way planets orient around a star. "We continue," Naruto said. "This man's country is drowning. We're going to lift it out." Kakashi didn't argue. He nodded. They moved forward. The mist came without warning. One moment the air was clear. The next, the world was white. Thick, wet, suffocating fog that reduced visibility to nothing and pressed against the skin like a living thing. "Sensei," Sakura whispered. "Formation," Kakashi ordered. His hand was on his headband. "Protect Tazuna. This is hiding in mist technique." The voice came from everywhere, deep, gravel rough, amused. "You recognize it, Kakashi of the Sharingan. Good." A shape in the fog, massive, broad shoulders, bare chest, bandages around the lower half of a scarred face. And the weapon, a sword so large it seemed less like a blade and more like a slab of iron, shaped into something that could split a man in half from crown to groin. Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the hidden mist. A-rank missing ninja, former member of the 7 swordsmen. He stood on the water 30 meters ahead, the executioner's blade resting on his shoulder, his killing intent bleeding into the mist like poison. 8 points, Zabuza said. Larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular, subclavian artery, kidneys, heart. Which one do you want me to hit first? Kakashi stepped forward. His Sharingan was uncovered. His stance shifted into readiness. A hand landed on his shoulder. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto stepped past him, walking forward toward the water, toward the monster in the mist. Sit this one out. Naruto, this isn't... I know what it isn't. Naruto looked back over his shoulder. His eyes were warm. It isn't a threat. He walked onto the water. His feet didn't even use chakra to stay afloat. The surface simply held him, as if the laws of physics were offering him courtesy. Zabuza watched. His eyes narrowed above the bandages. A kid? The demon of the mist tilted his head. Kakashi? You're sending a genin against me? I'm insulted. I didn't send him, Kakashi said, his voice tight. And you should be terrified. Zabuza laughed. I've killed grown men before their balls dropped, boy. What makes you special? Naruto stopped 10 meters from Zabuza. The mist swirled around him. His red hair hung still, completely still, despite the wind that moved the fog around them. Swing your sword, Naruto said. I'll show you. Zabuza swung. The executioner's blade came off his shoulder like a pendulum of death. 200 pounds of steel moving at a speed that turned the fog into a vortex. It could cleave through iron armor. It could split trees in half. It had killed over 100 people and reformed itself from their blood. It reached Naruto. It stopped existing. From the handle outward, a wave of absence propagating through the metal faster than the eye could track. Steel to nothing, iron to void. The legendary blade that had been wielded by generations of Mist Village swordsmen, gone as though someone had pressed delete on reality. Zabuza's arm completed the swing, holding nothing. His grip was still tight around a handle that was no longer there. His eyes, above the bandages, went wider than they'd ever gone in his life. Naruto released his killing intent. It was not like other killing intents. It was not the promise of death. It was not the threat of violence. It was something far, far worse. It was the absolute, unquestionable certainty of erasure. The sense that if this boy decided you should stop existing, you would stop existing, and there would be nothing left of you to mourn. Not a body, not a memory, not a molecule. Zabuza's knees buckled. He hit the water. Both kneecaps went down with a splash that felt deafening in the silence. His hands that had killed dozens, were shaking so violently that the missing handle of his sword rattled against the lake's surface. Behind Naruto, on the shore, Kakashi's Sharingan was spinning. His face was bloodless. Sasuke stood frozen. His eyes were fixed on Naruto's back, and his mouth was open and nothing was coming out. Sakura had both hands over her mouth. Tazuna had dropped his bottle of sake and didn't notice. In the trees, unseen by all but Naruto, a figure in a hunter nin mask gripped a tree branch hard enough to crack the bark. Haku watched the boy on the water and felt something he had never felt before. Not fear, recognition, the recognition of absolute power wielded without cruelty, the recognition of something that could destroy everything and chose not to. Naruto looked down at Zabuza. The killing intent vanished like a candle being blown out. In its place, that smile returned, warm, genuine, almost kind. "You're broken," Naruto said, "aren't you? Running from a village that used you, fighting for money you don't care about, living for nothing except the next swing of a sword that doesn't even exist anymore." Zabuza's jaw worked behind his bandages. No sound came out. "I have a better offer." Naruto extended his hand downward, open, palm up. "Stop running. Stop dying for people who don't deserve it. I'm building something in this world, something real, and I need people like you in it. People like me." Zabuza's voice was raw, wrecked. "I'm a monster. You're a man who was turned into a weapon and then thrown away when the weapon got inconvenient." Naruto's eyes softened. "I don't throw people away." From the trees Haku moved, the hunter nin mask dropped. A beautiful, androgynous face stared down at the scene on the water. Tears were streaming down porcelain cheeks. "Zabuza-sama," Haku whispered. Zabuza looked at Naruto's hand. He looked at it for a long time. He took it. Gato died 3 days later. Not by Naruto's hand. That would have been overkill bordering on comedy. Zabuza did it. Walked into the man's fortress on the docks with Haku at his side. And when the army of mercenaries raised their weapons, Naruto stood behind them and let his aura flicker. Just a heartbeat of crimson light, a half-second pulse of the power of destruction, and every single mercenary in that building dropped their weapon and ran. Zabuza killed Gato with his bare hands. It was quick. It was final. The bridge was completed a week later. Tazuna named it the Great Naruto Bridge. Naruto thought that was funny. They returned to Konoha with 2 new additions. The Hokage looked at Zabuza and Haku standing in his office. A former A-rank missing ninja and his apprentice, offered sanctuary by a 12-year-old genin who had apparently disarmed the demon of the mist by erasing his weapon from existence, and felt every one of his 70 years pressing down on his spine. "Naruto," Hiruzen said. "Old man." Naruto smiled from the couch where he sat with one leg crossed over the other. "You cannot simply adopt missing ninja." "Why not?" Hiruzen opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Zabuza, who stood with his arms crossed and his eyes on the floor, carrying himself with the deference of someone who had found something he didn't want to lose. Looked at Haku, who stood beside Zabuza like a shadow made of ice and devotion. "There are procedures, then proceed them. Naruto mine now, Hokage-sama. I will vouch for them with everything I am. If they betray this village, you can hold me responsible." Hiruzen stared at the boy. The boy stared back. There was no defiance in those deep blue eyes, no challenge, just the absolute, immovable certainty of someone who had made a decision and understood that no force in this room or this world was going to unmake it. Hiruzen sighed, stamped the papers, poured himself a very strong drink. The Chunin exams were announced 2 months later. Team 7 was nominated, along with the other rookie teams, Ino Shikacho, Team 8 with Hinata, Kiba, and Shino, and the older team of Lee, Neji, and Tenten. San Jinin arrived from Suna. Sound Jinin arrived from wherever Orochimaru was hiding. The village filled with foreign ninja, and the air grew thick with ambition and danger. Naruto walked through it all, like a king inspecting his territory. The first exam was a written test. Naruto finished it in 4 minutes, turned his paper over, and took a nap. Ibiki Morino, the proctor, the head of torture and interrogation, a man who had made seasoned jonin cry, looked at the sleeping genin and said nothing. He'd read the file. The second exam, the Forest of Death. This is where things got interesting. The forest was massive. Dark canopy, towering trees, predators the size of horses lurking in every shadow. Teams entered from different gates with scrolls they needed to match. The objective was survival and combat. Most teams spent 5 days fighting their way to the center tower. Team 7 reached it in 6 hours, not because they rushed, because nothing in the forest dared engage them. Animals fled before Naruto's presence. Other Genin teams felt something wrong in the air when Team 7 passed nearby. A pressure, an instinct, a whispered message from the survival centers of their brains that said not them, anyone but them, keep moving. Naruto walked through the Forest of Death with his hands in his pockets, humming. And then the air changed. The temperature dropped. The ambient chakra in the area twisted and soured. Something massive and ancient and deeply wrong entered the forest, moving toward them with intent. Naruto stopped humming. Sasuke, Sakura, behind me. They moved without questioning it. 2 months of being Team 7 had taught them many things, and the most important was this. When Naruto Uzumaki tells you to get behind him, you get behind him, because what's about to happen in front of him is not something human beings should be close to. The trees ahead rustled, then split apart as a snake the size of a building crashed through them. Mouth open, fangs dripping, summoned by a chakra signature so corrupt it made the air taste like rotting metal. Behind the snake, standing on its head, was a face that didn't match the body wearing it. Too smooth, too pale, eyes like gold coins sitting in a dead man's face. Orochimaru of the Sannin. Well, the snake sage purred. His tongue slid out, long, impossible, inhuman. The Uzumaki boy. I've heard such interesting things about you. His hands moved, summoning jutsu serpent swarm. The ground erupted, hundreds, no thousands of snakes. Every size, every species. A sea of scales and fangs pouring toward Team 7 like a living tide, filling the forest floor from edge to edge. Sakura grabbed Sasuke's arm. Sasuke gripped his kunai. Both of them knew, rationally, that they should be terrified. Naruto yawned. He raised both hands. Crimson light bloomed from his palms, not beams, not spheres. A dome. An expanding hemisphere of that absolute, undeniable crimson energy that pulsed outward from his body in all directions like a bubble of pure destruction. Crimson ruin, annihilation sphere. The dome expanded. Every snake that touched it ceased to exist. Hundreds per second, entering the dome and simply not emerging, not dissolving, not dying, just stopping. Being. The wave of scales crashed against his barrier and vanished like water into a drain, and within 3 seconds the forest floor was clean. Empty. Quiet. 3,000 summoned snakes. Gone. Orochimaru's gold eyes went wide. His smile didn't disappear. It stretched. The mad fascination of a scientist watching something unprecedented. Magnificent, the Sannin breathed. What is that power? It's not chakra. It's not. He moved, blurring forward with the speed of a living legend, tongue extending, hands reaching for Sasuke. For the Sharingan eyes he'd come to mark with his curse seal, Naruto was faster, not blurring, not flickering. He was simply there, between Orochimaru and his team, his hand already rising, his fingers already closing around the Sannin's jaw. Contact. Orochimaru froze. Naruto held the man's face in one hand. A 13-year-old boy gripping the jaw of one of the 3 legendary ninja, holding him still with no visible effort, those deep blue eyes staring into gold with absolute, unshakable authority. You came for my teammate, Naruto said. His voice was still warm, still polite. That was the worst part. That was a mistake. His hand glowed, crimson light, spreading from his palm into Orochimaru's flesh. The power of destruction, seeping into the Sanin's face like acid that didn't burn, it unmade, skin vanishing, muscle ceasing to be. The left side of Orochimaru's face simply disappearing, revealing nothing beneath. Not bone, not blood. Void, Orochimaru screamed. The sound that came out of him was not human. It was the shriek of a being that had spent decades conquering mortality, who had made death his personal pet project, suddenly confronted with something so far beyond death that his immortality was meaningless. You cannot regenerate what has been erased from existence. You cannot rebuild what never was. His body spasmed. His hands flew to his own neck, and then, in a moment so visceral and so horrifying that Sasuke would have nightmares about it for weeks, Orochimaru ripped his own head from his body. The substitution jutsu that followed was the most desperate technique ever performed in the history of the shinobi world. A new body erupted from the severed neck of the old one, pale, wet, gasping, and Orochimaru threw himself backward through the trees with the speed of pure animal panic. He was gone in seconds, fleeing. One of the three legendary ninja, running from a 13-year-old boy with half his face deleted. The forest was silent. Naruto lowered his hand. The crimson light faded. He turned to face his teammates. Sasuke was white as paper. Sakura was shaking. Both of them were staring at him like he'd peeled back the sky and shown them what lived on the other side of it. "He won't be back," Naruto said. He said it gently. He knew what they'd just seen. He knew what it meant to them. "Come on." The towers close. He started walking. After a moment, they followed. They didn't speak for 20 minutes. When Sakura finally found her voice, she said, "Naruto, what are you?" He looked back at her. The sunlight filtering through the canopy caught his red hair and lit it up like a halo of fire. "I'm your teammate," he said, "and nothing in this world will hurt you while I'm here." Sakura's eyes filled with tears. Sasuke said nothing. But something in his expression cracked. Some wall he'd been building since the night his clan died, shifting on its foundation for the first time. The preliminary matches. The tower's interior arena was packed. All surviving teams gathered on the upper walkways. Jonin Sensei stood behind their students. The Hokage watched from his elevated platform. Anko Mitarashi, still shaken from discovering what had happened to her former master in the forest, stood with her arms crossed and her eyes locked on the red-haired boy on the lower walkway. The electronic board cycled names. First match, Sasuke Uchiha versus Yoroi Akado. Sasuke won in 40 seconds. Clean, efficient. He'd been training harder since the Forest of Death, and it showed. Second match, Shino Aburame versus Zaku Abumi. Shino won by draining his opponent's chakra through his destruction bugs. The Sound Genin collapsed with his arms shattered. Third match, Kankuro versus Misumi Tsurugi. The puppet user won brutally. The board cycled again. Fifth match, Neji Hyuga versus Hinata Hyuga. Naruto's eyes moved. On the arena floor, Hinata stepped forward with her chin up and her hands trembling. Across from her, Neji Hyuga descended the stairs with the cold, imperious gaze of someone who had already won and was simply going through the motions of proving it. "Forfeit, Lady Hinata," Neji said. His voice carried through the arena, sharp, mocking, edged with a bitterness that ran deeper than any 13-year-old should carry. "Fate has decided this match already. You were born weak. You will always be weak. That is your destiny." Hinata's hands stopped trembling. She raised them into the gentle fist stance. "I won't run away." The fight began. Hinata fought beautifully. She fought with everything she had, every ounce of training, every night of solo practice, every morning she'd woken up and chosen to keep going despite her father's disappointment. She was brave. She was fierce. She was completely outmatched. Neji dismantled her, blow by blow, strike by strike, closing her tenketsu, cutting off her chakra, driving his fingers into her chest and arms with a brutality that went beyond winning and into punishment. He was making a point, carving a lesson into her flesh with his fists. Hinata hit the ground for the third time, blood on her lips, her left arm hanging useless, her breathing wet and labored. "Stay down," Neji said. "Accept your fate." She stood up. "Why?" Neji's voice rose. His mask cracked, showing the rage beneath. "Why do you keep standing? You know you'll lose. You know because..." Hinata wiped the blood from her mouth. Her pale eyes, even clouded with pain, found the red-haired figure on the upper walkway. Because someone taught me that fate is what we make it. Neiji's expression twisted. He charged, palm cocked back, aimed at her heart. The 64 palms channeled into a single finishing strike. The air broke. A pressure descended on the arena so immense that every person in the building felt their bones creak. The concrete beneath the walkway railing cracked in a spiderweb pattern. Every Jonin in the room reached for a weapon. Guy tensed. Kakashi's Sharingan spun. The Hokage gripped his armrest. Naruto was gone from the walkway. He stood on the arena floor. Between Hinata and Neji, his back to the girl he was protecting, his face toward the boy whose fist had stopped 3 inches from his chest. Stopped not by contact, but by the wave of crimson energy radiating from Naruto's body like heat from a star. Neji's hand trembled in the air. His eyes, the Byakugan, the all-seeing eye, were active and locked onto the figure in front of him. And what they showed him turned his face the color of ash. Because the Byakugan sees chakra, it sees the network, the flow, the coils. What Neji was looking at was not chakra. It was something else entirely. A core of power at the center of this boy's body that was so dense, so vast, so utterly beyond anything the Byakugan had ever registered that it looked like staring into the sun through a magnifying glass. His eyes burned. Tears streamed down his face from the sheer intensity of what he was seeing. Neji Hyuga. Naruto's voice was the same, warm, polite, but behind it, underneath it, was something that made every person in the arena understand, on a primal level, that they were listening to something that could erase this building and everyone in it between one word and the next. You speak of fate, Naruto continued, of destiny, of a system that decides who rises and who falls before they ever have a chance to choose. Neji couldn't move. His body refused his commands, not because of a jutsu, because of instinct, the same instinct that stops a rabbit from moving when a predator's eyes fall on it. Let me tell you something about fate. Naruto lifted one hand. A single crimson ember flickered at his fingertip. Tiny, beautiful, and absolutely terrifying. Fate is the lie that the strong tell the weak to keep them from trying. Destiny is the cage that people build around themselves because they're too afraid to break it open. He closed his fist. The ember vanished. There is no fate in this arena. There is no destiny in this village. There is only choice. And you just chose to try to kill someone I care about. His eyes hardened. Just a fraction, just a degree, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. If you ever touch her again with intent to harm, I will erase your arms from existence, and you will spend the rest of your life learning exactly how flexible destiny really is. He turned his back on Neji. Hinata was staring up at him from the ground. Her lavender eyes were wide and wet and filled with something so bright and overwhelming that it might have been love or awe or both. Naruto knelt beside her. His expression shifted. The authority drained away, replaced by that warmth that he reserved for his people. He brushed a strand of dark hair from her face. "You were incredible," he said. Hinata's tears fell. She smiled through them. On the wall above, Rock Lee's jaw was on the floor. "Who is that person?" he whispered. Beside him, Tenten was gripping the railing so hard the metal was bending. "That's Naruto Uzumaki. I have never seen anyone do that." Lee's eyes were burning. "Such power, such conviction, such..." "Lee." Guy put a hand on his student's shoulder. His face was serious in a way it almost never was. "That boy is something I have never encountered in my entire career." Up on the Hokage's platform, Hiruzen's pipe had gone out. He didn't notice. And Neji stood alone on the arena floor, his Byakugan still active, staring at the back of the red-haired boy who had dismantled his entire worldview in 30 seconds without throwing a single punch. His hands dropped to his sides. His stance collapsed. He looked like a man who'd spent his whole life in a cave and just been dragged into sunlight. The proctor cleared his throat. The match between Neji Hyuga and Hinata Hyuga is declared a no contest due to outside interference. No one argued. Naruto's own preliminary match was called 10 minutes later. Naruto Uzumaki versus Kiba Inuzuka. Kiba descended to the arena with Akamaru on his head and a cocky grin on his face. "Finally! A fight I can..." He locked eyes with Naruto, who was already standing on the arena floor with his arms at his sides. Kiba's grin faltered. Akamaru whimpered, then barked. then leaped off Kiba's head and ran up the stairs with his tail between his legs. "Akamaru!" Kiba turned. "Get back here! What are you?" "Your dog is smarter than you are," Naruto said. He hadn't moved. Animals know. They always know. Kiba turned back. The cocky grin was gone. In its place was uncertainty, and for an Inuzuka, uncertainty was almost worse than fear. "I'm not gonna forfeit," Kiba growled. He dropped into his stance. Man, beast clone, he performed the jutsu. Akamaru didn't come. Kiba's transformation sputtered and failed. "Your partner won't approach me," Naruto said. "Forfeit." "Screw that," Kiba charged alone. "Passing Fang." He became a spinning drill of claw and fang, tearing across the arena floor at Jonin-level speed. The attack had taken down Sound Ninja. It had shredded training dummies to confetti. Naruto raised 2 fingers. A wall of crimson light materialized in the air between them, paper-thin, translucent, humming with power. Kiba hit it. His technique stopped. Not deflected, not absorbed, not overpowered. The rotation simply ceased the instant it made contact, like a top touching a wall and going from full speed to 0 in the span of a single frame. Kiba dropped to the ground, dazed, his fingertips numb. Naruto stood over him. "Are we done?" Kiba looked up. His wild instincts, the same instincts that made the Inuzuka clan some of the best trackers and fighters in the village, were screaming at him in unison. They were screaming the same thing Akamaru had tried to tell him. This is not prey. This is not a rival. This is the thing in the forest that everything runs from. "Yeah," Kiba said. His voice was hoarse. "Yeah, we're done. Winner, Naruto Uzumaki." The arena was silent again. It was becoming a pattern. The month between the preliminaries and the finals passed quickly. Naruto trained. Not alone, he trained with his people. Zabuza taught him nothing about combat, because Naruto needed nothing. But they sparred together for the joy of movement, and because Zabuza needed to rebuild his identity as something other than a weapon for hire. Haku brought tea and cold humor, and the kind of loyalty that made Naruto's chest ache with familiarity. He visited Hinata in the hospital, brought flowers, sat by her bed, and told her stories about a world she couldn't see. A world of devils and peerages and impossible power that he remembered like a half-forgotten dream. She listened with wide eyes and pink cheeks, and the growing certainty that Naruto Uzumaki was not entirely of this world. "Do you miss it?" she asked once. "That other life?" Naruto thought about it. "I miss the people," he said. "But I'm building something new here, something that might be even better." He looked at her. "Because here, I found you." Hinata turned so red she fainted. Naruto caught her before she hit the pillow. He was getting good at that. The day of the Chunin exam finals dawned bright and clear. The arena was packed, every seat filled, the Kaji box occupied by the 3rd Hokage and the Kazekage, whose smile was too wide and whose chakra was too wrong for a sand ninja, but Naruto was patient. Civilians, ninja, foreign dignitaries, everyone had come. They'd heard rumors, the red-haired boy, the boy who erased a boulder with his finger, the boy who stopped a prodigy mid-strike with his presence alone, the boy who'd apparently chased a Sannin out of the forest of death. Everyone wanted to see. Naruto stood in the competitor's lineup with his hands in his pockets and his red hair catching the light like a war banner. Beside him, the other finalists shifted their weight, tapped their feet, clenched their fists. Nervous energy vibrated through the arena. Gaara of the Sand stood 3 people down. His arms were crossed over his chest, and his teal eyes were fixed on Naruto with an expression that hovered between hunger and unease. The sand in his gourd stirred without wind. Naruto glanced at him, smiled. Gaara's sand went still. The matches proceeded. Sasuke fought brilliantly against a sound Genin and won. Shikamaru forfeited his match against Temari with a yawn and a muttered complaint about effort. The crowd buzzed and cheered and booed. And then, final match of the round, Naruto Uzumaki versus Gaara of the Sand. The arena went silent, then erupted. Gaara descended to the arena floor on a platform of sand. His gourd had dissolved into a swirling cloud around him, defense, offense, and absolute murder all in one. His eyes were wide. His breathing was fast. Something inside him was pushing against its cage, and his grip on it was slipping. Mother was screaming for blood. Naruto stepped onto the arena floor. He didn't jump, didn't flicker. Walked down the stairs, pushed open the iron gate, and stepped onto the packed earth with all the urgency of someone arriving at a dinner reservation they'd made weeks ago. "You're like me," Gaara said. His voice was hoarse and desperate and raw. "You have something inside you." "I do," Naruto agreed. "The difference is that mine knows better than to make noise." Inside Naruto's seal, Kurama pressed itself against the farthest wall of its cage and did not breathe. "Mother says I should kill you," Gaara whispered. "She says your blood will make me real." "Your mother is wrong," Naruto tilted his head, "and I think you know that." Gaara's face twisted. The sand surged, a massive wave, tons of it, crashing toward Naruto like a tsunami of crushing weight and death. Naruto stood still. The sand hit him, or rather, it reached him. The moment it entered the space within a foot of his body, it disintegrated, not into smaller grains, into nothing. The power of destruction flared from Naruto's skin as a passive aura, a shell of crimson energy so thin it was almost invisible, but so absolute that contact with it meant cessation of existence. Gaara's sand wave broke against him and vanished. Hundreds of pounds of sand gone. Gaara staggered. His eyes went wide. "Impossible." "Nothing is impossible," Naruto said. "Some things are just final." But the fight wasn't done, because this wasn't really about the Chunin exams. This was about what happened next. The signal came. Feathers drifted from the sky. The Genjutsu, Temple of Nirvana, cast from the arena walls. Civilians slumped into sleep. In the Kaga box, the Kazekage moved, and the third Hokage moved with him. An explosion from the rooftop. Purple barriers snapping into existence around the combatants. The invasion of Konoha had begun. Sand ninja poured over the walls. Sound ninja erupted from the crowd. Explosions rocked the village in 3 directions. Summoned serpents. Massive things, building-sized, commanded by Orochimaru's forces, crashed through the eastern gate. And in the arena, Gaara screamed. His sand swelled. His body twisted. The Shukaku, the one-tailed of the sand spirit sealed within him, clawed its way to the surface. Gaara's face dissolved into sand as the beast formed around him, like armor growing into a colossus. His siblings, Temari and Kankuro, grabbed him and fled toward the forest, where the beast could form fully without destroying their own forces. Naruto watched them go. Around him, the arena was chaos. Jonin fought sound elites. Genin scrambled for cover. Civilians screamed in their genjutsu-induced sleep. Naruto looked at the sky above the village. Smoke rose in 3 columns. The distant sounds of combat rolled across the rooftops like thunder. He made a decision. "Kakashi-sensei." His voice cut through the noise. Kakashi, mid-fight with 2 sound Jonin, looked up. "Handle the arena. I'm going after the big one." Kakashi kicked one opponent into the wall and slashed the other across the chest. "Naruto, that's a tailed beast." "I know what it is." Naruto smiled. It was not his warm smile. It was the other one, the one that made people feel like the ground was about to open beneath them. "I'll be back in 5 minutes." He vanished, not a body flicker, not a substitution. He simply launched himself into the air with a push of raw power, rising above the arena, above the stadium, above the rooftops of Konoha, and then he was moving, streaking across the sky like a crimson comet toward the forest, where the sand beast was still growing. Shukaku was enormous, 100 meters tall. A mountain of living sand shaped like a bloated, maniacal raccoon, arms spread wide, mouth open in a howl that shook trees to their roots. Its yellow eyes burned with the joy of freedom and destruction. Its tail swept through the forest, flattening everything it touched. On its forehead, Gaara hung half-merged with the beast, his body wrapped in sand, his consciousness fading. The demon was taking over. Wind release. Air bullet. Shukaku inhaled. Its chest expanded to impossible proportions. Then it fired, a compressed sphere of wind so massive and so powerful that it tore a trench through the forest as it flew. Aimed at the village, aimed at the residential district where thousands of people lived. Naruto appeared in its path, floating in the air, arms at his sides, red hair streaming behind him. His school uniform, torn and dusty from the day's events, flapping in the wind of the approaching attack. And then he changed. His body began to glow. Not with chakra, with something older and more fundamental. Crimson light erupted from every pore from his eyes, from the roots of his hair. His physical form blurred. The lines of his body dissolving into energy, reshaping, condensing, becoming something that was not human and had never pretended to be. His true form, a humanoid silhouette of pure, condensed, absolute destruction. No features, no face, just a shape that burned like a red sun against the sky, radiating waves of annihilation that made the air around him warp and scream. He looked like a god made of extinction. Like the concept of ending given in a body and told to stand up, the air bullet reached him. He flew straight through it. The jutsu, a sphere of wind dense enough to level city blocks, split around him and ceased to exist. He cut through it like a knife through smoke, leaving nothing in his wake. No dispersed wind, no shockwave, just silence where the attack had been. On the ground below, everyone saw it. Kakashi looked up from the arena floor. His Sharingan captured the image and burned it into his memory forever, the red star rising toward the Sand Colossus. Guy stopped mid-punch and stared at the sky with his mouth open. Asuma's cigarette fell from his lips. The Hokage, trapped in the barrier with Orochimaru on the rooftop above, looked up through the translucent walls of the prison and felt something he hadn't felt since the day the fourth Hokage sealed the Nine Tails. Hope and terror, in equal measure. Naruto reached Shukaku. He landed on the beast's forehead, a figure of pure crimson light standing on the Sand Colossus like a burning ember on a mountain. Shukaku's eyes rolled toward him. The beast tried to swat him, massive sand arms closing in from both sides. Naruto raised one finger, glowing like the end of the universe. Crimson ruin. He pressed it to Shukaku's forehead. The beast came apart. From the point of contact outward, spreading like a crack in reality, the sand dissolved. Not crumbled, not scattered. Ceased. The colossal body unmade itself in expanding waves, 100-meter arms becoming nothing, the massive torso evaporating, the legs collapsing into absence. In less than 2 seconds, a tailed beast construct that had taken years of sealing knowledge and a lifetime of suffering to create was simply gone. Harmless sand, normal sand, dead sand with no chakra, no will, no menace, drifted down through the air like snow. Gaara fell, 40 meters to the ground, unconscious, limp, falling through a cloud of what used to be his ultimate weapon with his arms spread and his eyes blank. Naruto caught him. The true form receded, crimson light pulling back into a human shape, features reappearing, blue eyes and red hair returning. Naruto stood on a tree branch with Gaara cradled in his arms, looking down at the boy's unconscious face. He was so young. Under the sand armor and the dark circles and the manic eyes, he was just a kid. A kid who'd been told he was a monster and had believed it because no one ever offered him an alternative. I know how that feels. Naruto murmured. He set Gaara down on the branch. Temari and Kankuro burst through the trees 30 seconds later, kunai and fan drawn ready to fight. They saw their brother, unconscious, unharmed, lying on a tree branch. They saw the red-haired boy standing over him. No sand, no beast, no destruction anywhere except the conspicuous absence of all the destruction that should have been there. Temari's fan lowered. Her hands were shaking. "What did you do to him?" she asked. Her voice cracked. "Woke him up." Naruto jumped down from the branch. "Take him home. Take care of him, and tell your village the next time they use a child as a weapon and point him at my home, I won't stop at the sand." He walked away. Behind him, Temari picked up her brother with trembling arms and held him against her chest. She was crying. She didn't know why. The invasion ended within the hour, not because the sand and sound forces were overwhelmed. They'd brought a real army, enough to test Konoha to its limits. It ended because word spread. From the arena, from the forest, from the lips of every shinobi who'd looked up and seen the red star in the sky, the Crimson Satan. That was the name that stuck. Someone had said it, some nameless chunin who'd watched the true form and blurted out the first thing that came to mind, and it spread through the ranks like wildfire. Sand Ninja who heard it broke formation. Sound Ninja who saw the direction the red-haired boy had gone chose to run instead of fight. By sunset, it was over. The village was battered but standing. The third Hokage was alive. He'd fought Orochimaru to a standstill within the barrier, sustained by something that might have been the knowledge that his village still had a protector beyond anything the Snake Sage could counter. The council gathered that night. Naruto was not invited, but every word spoken in that room was about him. He eliminated a tailed beast construct in 2 seconds, Danzo said, his single eye burning with hunger. He chased Orochimaru out of the Forest of Death, Homura added. He has annexed 2 missing ninja as personal retainers without authorization, Koharu noted. Hiruzen listened to all of it. His pipe was lit. His face showed nothing. "He is 13 years old," the Hokage said. The room went silent, and he just this village single-handedly while the rest of us were barely holding our positions. Hiruzen blew smoke toward the ceiling. "Whatever that boy is, whatever power he carries, he chose to use it for us today. If any of you are entertaining the notion of trying to control him or contain him, or God help you, weaponize him, I will advise you, as someone who has been watching this child grow for 13 years, that there is nothing in this world or any other that can contain what he is." He looked at Danzo. Nothing. The meeting adjourned. No one slept well that night. The weeks after the invasion were reconstruction. The village rebuilt. Teams took missions to refill depleted coffers. Life resumed. Naruto's life resumed differently. He was no longer invisible. The hatred that had defined his childhood hadn't vanished entirely. Some people still clutched their old fears like security blankets, but it was drowned out now by something louder. Something that looked like respect from a distance but was closer to reverence up close. People bowed when he walked past. Shop owners offered him discounts. Children pointed and whispered his new name, the Crimson Satan. Naruto didn't love it, too sinister for his taste, but he understood why they chose it, and he let it stand. Names had power. Let them fear his name if it meant they thought twice before threatening what he loved. Jiraiya arrived a week later, the Toad Sage. Legendary Sanin, author of terrible literature, godfather to a boy he'd never bothered to raise. He showed up at Naruto's apartment, a modest place, neat and well kept, nothing like the disaster zone people expected a 13-year-old boy to inhabit, and knocked on the door with the careful casualness of a man who knew he had a debt to repay and wasn't sure the creditor would accept payment. Naruto opened the door, looked at him. Those blue eyes, deep as ocean trenches, old as civilizations, scanned the man on his doorstep. "Jiraiya," Naruto said, not pervy sage, not old man, not any of the irreverent nicknames a normal boy might use. Jiraiya, full name, pronounced with the weight of someone acknowledging what you are and what you failed to be. The sage flinched. "Kid-Eye, come in." Naruto stepped aside. "I'll make tea." They sat across from each other at a small kitchen table. Naruto poured green tea with the practiced elegance of someone who found ritual soothing. Jiraiya held his cup and stared into it. "I should have been here," Jiraiya said. Yes, no argument, no justification requested, just agreement. Somehow that was worse. Your father was the fourth Hokage. I know. I've known since I was 8. Naruto sipped his tea. "I don't need the speech, Jiraiya-san. I need you to tell me why you're here now." Jiraiya set down his cup. "Tsunade, the 5th Hokage candidate. The old man's retiring. The invasion showed him it's time. I'm supposed to bring her back, and I want you to come with me." "Why?" "Because Tsunade is stubborn, bitter, and running from her own shadow. And I think," Jiraiya hesitated, "I think if she meets you, she won't be able to run anymore." Naruto considered this. He turned his teacup between his fingers. "Also," Jiraiya added, "there are 2 members of a group called the Akatsuki who are coming to this village specifically for you. S-rank criminals, Itachi Uchiha and Kasame Hoshigaki." Naruto's expression didn't change. "They want the 9 tails. You know about..." "I know about everything that's sealed inside me, Jiraiya-san." Naruto stood. "Let's go. I could use a trip." The road to find Tsunade took them through 2 countries and a handful of towns that all blurred together. Jiraiya tried to bond, told jokes, shared stories, attempted to teach Naruto the Rasengan. Naruto learned it in 30 minutes. Jiraiya had taken 3 years to develop it. Minato had taken even longer to perfect it. Naruto formed it on his 3rd try, stared at the spinning sphere of chakra in his hand, and said, "It's incomplete." "What?" "It needs elemental nature added to it." That was his intention, wasn't it? The 4th. He died before he finished it. Jiraiya's jaw dropped. "How could you possibly? It's obvious from the structure." Naruto dismissed the Rasengan with a flick of his wrist. "I'll complete it later. It's a nice technique, but I don't need it." Jiraiya stared at him. "What do you need?" Naruto smiled. "Nothing. But it would be disrespectful to leave my father's work unfinished." But they walked in silence for a while after that. Jiraiya watched the red-haired boy beside him, this impossible child, this being wearing a teenager's body, and felt for the first time in decades that the world might actually be in good hands. The hotel was unremarkable. A mid-range inn in a mid-range town. 2 floors, central hallway, rooms on either side. Jiraiya left to gather intelligence, which meant visiting the local bars and flirting with women. Naruto didn't mind. He went to his room, ordered dinner, and ate in comfortable solitude. Then the hallway outside his door went cold. Not temperature cold, presence cold. The specific suffocating pressure of 2 people who had killed so many that murder had become ambient noise in their existence. Naruto set down his chopsticks, wiped his mouth with a napkin. He opened the door. They stood in the corridor, 2 figures in black cloaks with red clouds. The uniform of the Akatsuki. On the left, Kasame Hoshigaki, tall as a wall, blue-skinned, grinning with pointed teeth. His bandaged sword, Samahada, rested on his shoulder, pulsing with hunger. Former member of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. An ocean's worth of chakra in his body and the predatory energy of a man who'd never met something he couldn't overpower. On the right, Itachi Uchiha, lean, beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful. Sharing an active, 3 tomoe spinning in each eye, the dojutsu that had seen the death of an entire clan. The man who had committed that death. S rank, quiet, lethal. They looked at the 13-year-old boy standing in a hotel room doorway in his sleeping yukata, holding a napkin. Naruto Uzumaki, Itachi said. His voice was low, even. "We would like you to come with us." Naruto folded the napkin, set it on the dresser beside the door, stepped into the hallway. "No," he said pleasantly, "but I appreciate the courtesy of asking." Kisame laughed. It was a shark's laugh, all teeth, no warmth. "The brat's got manners, Itachi. I like that." He swung Samahada off his shoulder. The bandaged sword writhed eagerly, sensing the impossible chakra density in the boy before them. "Let me take a chunk out of him. This thing's been begging me for a meal all day." "Be my guest," Itachi said. He didn't move. His eyes were fixed on Naruto with an intensity that went beyond assessment and into something that might have been dread. Kasame lunged. He was fast. Genuinely fast. S-rank speed. The kind of speed that let a man cut through a squad of Anbu before they drew their weapons. Samahada came off his shoulder in a horizontal slash aimed at Naruto's left shoulder, not to kill, to wound, to drain. The sword was alive, and it was starving. Samahada made contact. The sound that followed was not anything Kasame had ever heard. It was a shriek, high-pitched, agonized, primal, erupting from his own sword. Samahada screamed. The bandages around it burned away as the blade thrashed violently, its scales reversing, its entire body convulsing. Because Samahada fed on chakra. It absorbed it. It devoured it. That was its function, its nature, its hunger. It had just tried to absorb the power of destruction. The sword ripped itself out of Kasame's hands with enough force to dislocate his shoulder. It flew backward down the hallway, hit the far wall, and continued thrashing on the floor like a fish on hot coals, screaming, dissolving at the edges, its scales falling off in chunks that disintegrated before they hit the ground. Kasame stared at his empty hands. His right shoulder hung at the wrong angle. His face, already blue, went several shades paler. What the? He looked at his sword. His legendary, living, practically indestructible sword, which was currently dying in a corner and screaming about it. What the hell did you just? It bit off more than it could chew. Naruto hadn't moved from his spot. His hands were in the pockets of his yukata. In fairness, I should have warned it. Most things that touch me without my permission don't survive the experience. Kisame looked from his dying sword to the boy. Back to the sword. Back to the boy. "Itachi," he said. "Itachi, that thing just ate my sword. I saw. That was Samahada." "I know. The sword that's been in the Mist Village for 300. Kisame." Itachi's voice was tight. "Stop talking." Because Itachi was doing what Itachi always did, analyzing. His Sharingan had been watching from the moment Naruto stepped into the hallway. He'd seen everything. The complete lack of hand seals, the absence of any chakra molding. The energy that had destroyed Samehada was not a technique. It was not a jutsu. It was not even an ability in any sense that the shinobi framework could categorize. It was simply what this boy was, at rest. Without trying, Itachi's hands formed a seal. Amaterasu, his right bled. Black flames, the inextinguishable fire of the Mangekyo Sharingan, the technique that burned for 7 days and 7 nights, that could not be extinguished by water or wind or ceiling, that consumed anything and everything in creation, erupted from his eye and landed on Naruto's chest. The black fire spread. It ate across his yukata. It crawled toward his neck. Naruto looked down at it. He looked down at the Amaterasu, the most feared offensive technique in the Uchiha clan's history. The flames that burned at the temperature of the sun. The fire that nothing in the world could stop, like a man noticing lint on his shirt. His aura pulsed. Crimson light flared from his body. Just a flicker, a heartbeat of the power of destruction made manifest. And the Amaterasu went out, not suppressed, not sealed, not overpowered, extinguished, erased, unwritten from reality. The black flames that burned eternally touched something that exceeded them in every dimension and stopped, being fire. Naruto looked up from his chest. His yukata was ruined, burned through in several places, showing the skin beneath. Unblemished skin, not a mark on him. He looked at Itachi. Itachi's Sharingan was spinning. His face, the mask of the emotionless prodigy, the clan killer, the S-rank ghost, had cracked. Not a lot. Most people wouldn't have noticed. But his breathing was faster. His jaw was tight. His hands had dropped from their sealed position to his sides, and they were not steady. He was afraid. Itachi Uchiha, who had walked through his own family's blood at 13 years old, who had faced death every day since, who had accepted his fate and his role and his damnation with absolute calm, was standing in a hotel hallway, looking at a boy younger than him and feeling afraid. "That's not possible," Itachi whispered. "Nothing stops Amaterasu." "Nothing in your world," Naruto agreed. He took a step forward. "I am not from your world." Both of them stepped back. Two S-rank criminals, two of the most dangerous humans alive, stepping back from a teenager in a burned yukata. "Here is what's going to happen," Naruto said. His voice hadn't risen. His smile hadn't appeared. He spoke with the flat, absolute authority of a being handing down judgment. "You are going to turn around. You are going to walk out of this hotel. You are going to go back to whatever hole you crawled out of and tell your master that the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki is not available. Not now. Not ever." He let his aura flare, just enough for both of them to feel it. To really feel it. The core of what he was, pressing outward against their senses like the gravity of a collapsing star. "If you come for me again," he said, "I will erase you. Not kill you. Erase you. There will be no Edo Tensei to bring you back. No afterlife waiting. No memory of you in the fabric of this world. You will simply not have existed. Do you understand?" Kasame was already walking. He didn't even look back. His shoulder was still dislocated, and his sword was a smoking pile of scales behind him. And he was walking with the brisk, focused pace of a man who had just been handed the most compelling argument for retreat he'd ever encountered. Itachi lingered one moment longer. His red eyes met Naruto's blue ones. Something passed between them. Something that might have been recognition. Itachi had made sacrifices no one in this world understood. He carried weight no one in this world could see. And he was looking at someone who saw it all, every piece of it, and was choosing not to speak of it. Not yet. "Understood," Itachi said. He turned. He walked away. The hallway was empty. Naruto stood in the silence, his ruined yukata hanging off one shoulder, the faintest wisp of smoke rising from where Amaterasu had died against his skin. He went back into his room, closed the door, picked up his chopsticks. His ramen was cold. "Annoying," he muttered. Jiraiya returned an hour later. He took one look at the ruined yukata, the scorch marks on the hallway wall, and the pile of disintegrating scales in the corner and said, "What happened?" "Visitors." Naruto was reading a book on his bed, wearing a fresh shirt. "They left." "Left?" Itachi Uchiha and Kasame Hoshigaki just left? Quickly, Naruto turned a page. Kasame seemed particularly motivated. Jiraiya sat down heavily. He ran a hand over his face. "You know, when Minato was alive, I thought he was the most terrifying thing I'd ever trained. The fastest man alive, capable of leveling a battlefield, and still the kindest person I'd ever met. And you're worse." Jiraiya shook his head. "You're so much worse." Naruto smiled behind his book. "Thank you." They found Tsunade in a gambling town. Blonde, beautiful, drunk. Bitter in a way that had curdled into something self-destructive, spending her days losing money and her nights drowning memories in sake. Jiraiya tried talking first. It went poorly. Old wounds, old arguments, old grief. Tsunade's dead brother, her dead lover, the blood that would never wash off her hands. Then Naruto walked in. Tsunade looked at him. This red-haired boy in a neat shirt and pressed pants, who walked into a bar like he owned it and everyone inside it. And something flickered in her amber eyes. "You look like her," Tsunade said. "Kushina, I've been told." "What do you want, kid?" "Your village needs a Hokage." Naruto sat across from her, uninvited, completely at ease. "You're the best candidate. Come home." Tsunade laughed. "It was ugly. Home? That village took everything from me. My brother, Dan, mine. Your grandfather built it," Naruto said. "Your grandmother bled for it. Your brother believed in it enough to die for it. And you're sitting here in a bar feeling sorry for yourself while the thing they loved rots without someone to lead it." The bar went silent. Shizune, Tsunade's attendant, went pale. Jiraiya winced, Tsunade's fist clenched. Her chakra spiked, the raw, enormous reserves of a Sanin flaring with anger. "You little..." "I'm not done." Naruto didn't flinch, didn't lean back, didn't blink. "You're afraid, not of death, of loss. You've convinced yourself that if you never go back, you never have to risk losing again. But that's not living, Tsunade-sama. That's just dying slowly in a comfortable chair." Her fist shook. Her eyes burned. "What do you know about loss?" she snarled. "I know what it's like to carry a life that came before," Naruto said. And his voice, for the first time in this conversation, was not commanding. It was gentle. "I know what it's like to remember people you loved who are gone. I know the weight of being the last one standing was like, and I know that the answer is not to stop standing." Tsunade stared at him, her fist unclenched. "Come home," Naruto said again. "I'll make sure you never lose anyone again." It was a promise that no one should be able to make. Tsunade had lived long enough to know that promises like that were always lies. But when she looked into those deep blue eyes, old and young simultaneously, impossibly certain, burning with a conviction that bent the air around it, she didn't see a liar. She saw someone who meant it. She came home. The months after Tsunade's inauguration as 5th Hokage were the closest thing to peace Naruto had known. Konoha healed. Missions continued. Team 7 grew. Sasuke trained with a desperation that worried Kakashi. But it was not the dark, obsessive hunger it had been before. It was sharper now, focused differently. He'd stopped chasing Itachi in his nightmares and started chasing Naruto in his waking hours. Naruto let him. Growth was growth, whatever the motivation. Sakura bloomed under Tsunade's tutelage, medical ninjutsu, chakra-enhanced strength. The kind of practical brilliance that Naruto had always suspected was buried under the fangirl exterior. He was proud of her. He told her so. She cried, then punched him, then cried again. It was very Sakura. Hinata grew braver, not stronger. She'd always been strong, but braver. She approached Naruto in public now, talked to him without fainting, mostly, trained with him some mornings, his patience and warmth giving her permission to be imperfect without feeling worthless. It was good, but it couldn't last. The Sound Four came for Sasuke on a Tuesday that was otherwise unremarkable. They whispered to him in the night. Promises of power, promises of the strength he needed to kill Itachi, promises that Orochimaru could give him what Naruto had, that impossible, absolute dominance over the world. And Sasuke, brilliant, traumatized, desperate Sasuke, listened. He left at midnight, a note on his bed, his headband on his desk. The village gate guards found unconscious at their posts. Sakura found the note at dawn. Her scream woke half the apartment complex. By the time the news reached Naruto, Sasuke was already 6 hours gone. He was standing on a training field with Zabuza when Sakura appeared, running, crying, the note crumpled in her fist. "Naruto, he's gone. Sasuke's gone. Orochimaru's people took him. Please, you have to." Sakura, he caught her shoulders, held her steady. His eyes were the same, warm, certain, unshaken. "Breathe," she breathed, sobbing. "I'm gonna get him," Naruto said. "I'm gonna bring him home." But the Sound Four, they're Orochimaru's elite. They have cursed seals and Sakura. He smiled, that smile, the one that made everything feel manageable. "When have I ever not handled it?" She couldn't argue. She nodded, wiped her eyes. Shikamaru's team had already been assembled. Kiba, Neji, Choji, and Shikamaru himself as captain. A retrieval squad of Jinin and 1 Chunin, sent after 4 Jonin-level opponents. Naruto joined them. He didn't ask permission. Troublesome. Shikamaru muttered when Naruto appeared at the village gate. "I was going to say this mission was impossible. Now it's just a formality." "I like you, Shikamaru." Naruto clapped his shoulder. "Let's move." The pursuit was fast. The Sound Four had spread out, each one acting as a delay, a speed bump, an obstacle to slow the retrieval team. They didn't slow Naruto. Jirobo, the large one, the earth release specialist, rose from the ground with a dome of rock meant to trap them. Naruto walked through it. The rock ceased to exist around his body in a perfect silhouette, like a cookie cutter pressed through dough. What? Jirobo managed. Naruto pointed at him. A beam of crimson light caught the man in the chest. Not to kill, but the curse mark that powered him. The corruption Orochimaru had branded into his flesh erased itself from his body like a stain being wiped clean. Jirobo collapsed. Alive, human, powerless. Leave him, Naruto said to the team. He's done. They moved on. Kidomaru, the spider, the six-armed archer, launched from the trees with threads and arrows in an ambush perfect enough to kill most squads. Naruto expanded his aura. Everything within 5 meters of him ceased to exist. Threads, arrows, the tree branches they were attached to. Kidomaru's 6 arms trembled. Another beam, another curse mark erased. Next, Naruto said, Sakon and Ukon, the twins, the body horror specialists, attempted a flanking attack. One from the front, one merging from behind. Naruto flared. The crimson aura expanded in all directions. Anything hostile that touched it stopped existing. The twins separated, screaming, their fusion jutsu torn apart at the molecular level, and collapsed in a heap. 2 more beams. 2 more curse marks erased. The retrieval team, Shikamaru, Kiba, Neji, Choji, stood behind Naruto in various states of shock. They had prepared for life or death battles. They had prepared for sacrifice and blood and possibly death. What they were watching was a boy taking out an elite squad the way someone might pick up litter from a sidewalk. This is so unfair, Kiba said. Incredibly, Neji agreed. But he was smiling, small, genuine, looking at the back of the red-haired boy who had shattered his cage of fate. Tayuya, the last one, the foul-mouthed genjutsu user, didn't even try. She saw her 3 comrades taken down in seconds, saw the red-haired boy walking toward her, and dropped to her knees. I surrender, she shouted. I frickin' surrender, you monster. Smart. Naruto erased her curse mark anyway, gently. She gasped, feeling the corruption leave her body, feeling clean for the first time since Orochimaru had marked her. Thank you, she whispered, then looked furious that she'd said it. You're welcome. Naruto kept walking. Sasuke's ahead. I'm going alone from here. But, Shikamaru started, this is between me and him. Naruto looked back. Trust me. Shikamaru looked at those blue eyes, nodded. The Valley of the End, 2 statues, Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, flanked a roaring waterfall. The spray caught the fading sunlight and threw rainbows across the rocks. Sasuke stood on Madara's head. His curse mark was active, but he didn't know yet that it was gone. The transformation he was trying to force wouldn't come. His skin flickered, gray patches appearing and vanishing, the power stuttering, failing. Naruto appeared on Hashirama's head across the gap. The 2 of them stared at each other across 100 meters of churning water and ancient stone. Go back, Naruto. Sasuke's voice was raw. His Sharingan was blazing, 3 tomoe in each eye, spinning with desperation and fury. I have to do this. Orochimaru will give me the power I need to. To what? Naruto asked. Kill Itachi? Avenge your clan? Yes. Orochimaru would have eaten you alive, Sasuke. He doesn't give power, he takes bodies. You were going to be his next skin. Sasuke faltered, then hardened. I don't care. You need someone to tell you the truth. Naruto jumped, not down, across. The 100-meter gap between the 2 statues closed in a single bound, and he landed on Madara's head 3 meters from Sasuke, his red hair settling around his shoulders. The truth is that you're strong enough. Naruto's voice was even, warm. The truth is that you don't need a snake's hand-me-down power to kill the man who murdered your family. The truth is that you were going to throw away everything, your team, your home, your future, for a shortcut that would have ended with you dead and your body wearing Orochimaru's smile. Shut up. Sasuke formed hand seals. His hand erupted in lightning. Chidori. The sound of 1,000 birds filled the valley. Blue-white lightning crackled around Sasuke's fist as he charged. All his speed, all his talent, all his rage channeled into a single strike. I don't need your help, Sasuke screamed. I don't need your pity. I need power. He thrust the Chidori at Naruto's chest. Naruto raised one hand. Crimson ruin. The crimson light bloomed from his palm. Not a beam, not a wave, a sphere. a perfect orb of absolute destruction, the size of a grapefruit, floating in his outstretched hand. Sasuke's Chidori hit it. The lightning ceased to exist. The chakra died. The sound of 1,000 birds went silent in an instant. From screaming to nothing, from storm to void. Sasuke's hand passed through where the Chidori had been and met empty air. Then the crimson ruin washed over him, not violently, not destructively. Naruto was in absolute command, every particle of that annihilating energy under his total control. It did not touch Sasuke's flesh. It did not harm his body. It passed through him like light through glass, seeking, finding, and erasing one specific thing, the curse mark. What remained of Orochimaru's influence, the seal on Sasuke's neck, the corruption in his chakra system, the hooks the snake sage had buried in his student's body, burned away, deleted. Removed from existence as though they had never been applied, Sasuke hit the water. He lay on the surface of the river, the waterfall roaring beside him, the spray soaking his clothes, staring up at the sky with empty eyes. His Sharingan had deactivated. His body felt hollow, clean, lighter than it had in months. The curse mark was gone. He knew it the way you know when a fever breaks. Something that had been pressing against the inside of his skull, whispering, promising, corrupting, silent, absent, gone. Naruto landed on the water beside him, not sinking, not using chakra to stand. Just standing there, effortless, looking down at his teammate with that infuriating, immovable, impossibly kind expression. "Are you done?" Naruto asked. Sasuke lay on the water, his chest heaved, his fists clenched against the river's surface. "Why?" His voice cracked. Raw, human, young. "Why do you care? I just tried to leave, tried to kill you, tried to. Because you're mine." Naruto said it simply, without hesitation, without drama, a fact, immutable and absolute. "You're my teammate, my friend, my responsibility. I told you on the first day, I'm building something that cannot be broken. You're part of it, whether you accept that or not." Sasuke's face twisted, his jaw clenched, his eyes burned, not with Sharingan, but with tears he hadn't shed since he was 7 years old, standing in a street full of bodies. "I'm not strong enough," Sasuke whispered. "To kill him, I'm not yet." Naruto crouched beside him. "But you will be. And when the time comes, when you face Itachi for real, I will be standing beside you. Not in front of you, beside you, because that's what this is." He extended his hand, palm down, an offer. Sasuke stared at it. The waterfall roared. The spray painted rainbows in the dying light. Two statues of ancient enemies watched two boys on the water, and the weight of history hung in the air like incense. Sasuke took his hand. Naruto pulled him up, set him on his feet, steadied him when his legs shook. "Can you walk?" Naruto asked. "Yeah." Sasuke's voice was hoarse. His eyes were red and wet. "Yeah, I can walk." "Good." Naruto turned, started toward the shore. "Let's go home." Sasuke fell into step beside him, not behind, beside. And for the first time since the Uchiha massacre, he didn't feel the rage pushing him forward. He felt something else, something he'd forgotten the shape of. He felt safe. The dying light painted the water gold behind them, and Sasuke's footsteps beside him were uneven but real. The walk of a boy who had been running for hours and fighting for longer and was now, for the first time in as long as either of them could remember, simply going home. Neither of them spoke. The valley's roar faded behind them with each step, replaced by the ordinary sounds of forest, leaves rustling, insects humming, the particular alive stillness of Land of Fire woodland at dusk. Sasuke's breathing evened out. His eyes stayed forward. Once, his step faltered, just slightly, just a half pause that might have been exhaustion, or might have been the weight of what he'd almost done pressing on his legs, and Naruto slowed his pace to match without looking over or acknowledging it. That was enough. They walked. The retrieval team found them 2 kilometers south of the valley. Shikamaru saw them first. 2 silhouettes on the road, walking side by side, one with red hair catching the last of the sun, and one with hands in his pockets and his head down. Kiba whooped. Neji said nothing, but the tension in his shoulders released so completely that Tenten grabbed his arm in case he fell. Choji opened a bag of chips. Sakura was waiting at the village gate. She'd been there for 6 hours. Tsunade had ordered her to stay, not because the Hokage doubted Naruto, but because a medical ninja pacing the rooftops and crying was bad for morale. Sakura had stayed at the gate instead. Close enough, she saw them coming. The red hair first, Always the red hair, catching light that no longer existed, glowing with its own crimson life against the bruised purple sky. Then Sasuke, walking, alive. His headband was gone, but his face was tilted forward, and his stride was the stride of someone who was going somewhere instead of running from something. Sakura made a sound. It was not a word. It was the noise a human makes when the worst thing they can imagine doesn't happen. She ran. She hit them both at once, arms around two necks, face buried between two shoulders, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Sasuke went rigid. Then, after 3 seconds that felt like an era, one arm came up and rested against her back, stiff, uncertain, but there. Naruto held them both and said nothing and let the moment be what it was. When Sakura finally pulled back, eyes red, face wet, smile so wide it looked painful, she punched Sasuke in the shoulder hard enough to buckle his knee. "If you ever do that again, I won't." Sasuke's voice was rough. He was looking at the ground. "I won't." She punched him again anyway. He let her. They went home. The village received Sasuke with the wary relief of people who had heard what happened and weren't sure yet what it meant. Tsunade kept it contained. No public tribunal, no council hearing, no spectacle. The boy had left willingly. The boy had come back willingly. The curse mark was gone. The threat was neutralized. Case closed. Danzo pushed for incarceration. Tsunade told him where to put that suggestion in language that made her Anbu guards blush. What followed was not a punishment. It was a recalibration. Sasuke trained with Team 7, not as a rival, not as a loner tolerating proximity, as a member. The difference was small from the outside. He still didn't talk much, still didn't smile easily, still carried the Uchiha weight on his frame like armor he couldn't remove. But the edges were different. The direction was different. When he sparred with Naruto in the mornings, it was not the desperate, furious scramble of someone trying to prove something. It was work. Honest work. The kind of effort that comes from someone who has seen the ceiling removed and decided to build toward a sky that has no limit. Naruto never went easy on him, but he never went hard either. He went exactly as far as Sasuke needed him to go, and Sasuke grew against that standard like a vine against a wall. Sakura noticed. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. The 2.5 years that followed were not a pause. They were a construction. Naruto left Konoha 6 weeks after the Valley of the End. Not with Jiraiya, or not only with Jiraiya. The Toad Sage accompanied him. Yes, but the training that took place during those years was not the kind Jiraiya could offer. They traveled to the remnants of Uzushiogakure, the hidden whirlpool, destroyed decades ago, its ruins scattered across islands no one visited, its knowledge sealed in vaults that no living person had the bloodline to open. Naruto opened them all, his palm against ancient stone, his blood on oxidized seals, and door after door that had been locked since before his mother was born, swinging wide for the last son of the Uzumaki. What he found inside was not power. He had power. What he found was context, history, the real history, not the sanitized version taught in academies. The truth of how the 5 great nations were built and on whose corpses they were balanced. The sealed records of agreements broken and people sacrificed, and systems designed to perpetuate themselves at any cost. The Uzumaki clan's own records, their understanding of ceiling, of dimensional barriers, of the spaces between worlds where things existed that the shinobi framework could not contain. He studied. For 2.5 years, Naruto Uzumaki, who needed nothing in terms of strength, acquired something far more dangerous than strength. He acquired understanding. Complete, comprehensive, unassailable understanding of how this world functioned and where its pressure points were and exactly which threads, when pulled, would unravel the systems that kept the cycle of hatred spinning. Jiraiya watched. Jiraiya helped where he could. His spy network, his decades of accumulated intelligence, his contacts in every nation. And sometimes in the evenings, when they sat around a fire on some unnamed island with the sea crashing against ancient Uzumaki architecture around them, Jiraiya looked at the red-haired teenager reading scrolls by firelight and wondered what Minato would think. He decided Minato would be proud. And also, possibly, a little frightened. Back in Konoha, the others grew. Sasuke unlocked the Mangekyo Sharingan. Not through hatred, not the traditional path of Uchiha grief, through acceptance. through the specific, painful process of mourning his clan honestly for the first time, not as a source of rage, but as a source of loss. The eyes came when he finally let go of what had been done to him and started choosing what he would become instead. Black flames and dimensional manipulation bloomed behind his gaze like flowers that had been waiting for healthier soil. Sakura became something the medical world had never seen. Tsunade's strength amplification, combined with a precision that surpassed even the Sanins, and beneath it, the kind of intelligence that does not merely solve problems, but anticipates them. She was not the girl from part 1 anymore. She was a kunoichi who walked into rooms and made people check their math. Hinata trained alone in the mornings and with her team in the afternoons, and with a single-minded determination that her father noticed and, for the first time in her life, acknowledged. The Byakugan in her eyes grew sharper. Her gentle fist grew less gentle and more certain. She did not become a different person. She became the person she had always been underneath the doubt, confident, warm, and absolutely unwilling to be left behind. Zabuza took Anbu assignments. No one questioned it anymore. The former demon of the mist moved through the village's black operations like a blade that had been resheathed in a better scabbard. Same lethality, different purpose. He answered to no one except Tsunade and Naruto. And since Naruto was gone, Tsunade had his complete loyalty by proxy. Haku opened a tea house. It was wildly successful. The village changed. Not overnight. Villages don't work that way. But the shift was undeniable. The Crimson Satan's name had weight. It had texture. It existed in the air of Konoha like a second sky, an awareness, always present, that the most powerful thing anyone alive had ever witnessed called this village home and would return to it. People stood a little straighter knowing that. Merchants traded a little more fairly. Council members chose their corruptions more carefully. Fear is a blunt tool, but the knowledge that someone untouchable is watching, that is architecture. 2.5 years passed. Naruto came home on a morning in early spring, walking through the main gate with his hands in his pockets, and Jiraiya 2 steps behind him, looking like a man who had spent 30 months watching a star condense and was still processing the light. He was taller. The red hair was longer, falling past his shoulders in loose waves that moved like something alive. The whisker marks on his face were the same, but the face itself had sharpened from boyhood into something that was not yet a man, and was already more than one. He wore a long coat, high collar, black fabric with crimson lining, cut close to the body. His headband caught the sun. The gate guard stared. Naruto smiled at them. "I'm home." Word traveled faster than feet. By the time he reached the market district, people were already lining the roads. Not a crowd, not a parade, just the organic accumulation of humans who felt something change in the air and wanted to see its source. They bowed. Some of them, not all, but enough that the gesture looked less like deference and more like reflex. Kakashi was leaning against the ramen stand when Naruto arrived, one eye visible, book in hand, as if he'd been there by coincidence, as if he hadn't received the gate report 4 minutes ago and relocated at Jonin speed. "Yo, Kakashi-sensei." Naruto slid onto his stool. "Miso special, extra pork." "You got taller." "Time does that. It does." Kakashi closed his book. His visible eye studied Naruto with the focus of a man who needed to see what had changed and whether it worried him. What he found was the same thing that had always been there, just more of it. More presence, more certainty, more of that immovable, gravitational quality that made you feel like the rest of the world was optional when you were in his radius. "The village missed you," Kakashi said. "The village managed." Naruto accepted his bowl from Ayame, whose face was split in a grin so wide it could have served as its own welcome banner, and broke his chopsticks. "But I appreciate the sentiment." Sasuke arrived 11 minutes later. He walked up to the stand, took the stool beside Naruto, and ordered without speaking. Their shoulders were 3 inches apart. "You look the same," Sasuke said. "You look stronger." "I am." Naruto smiled. "Good." They ate in comfortable silence. 2 boys who had been on opposite sides of a waterfall and were now on the same side of a counter. It was enough. Life resumed, and then 3 weeks later, it broke. The message came by Hawk from Sunagakure. Emergency priority. Anbu encryption. Addressed to the Hokage. Tsunade read it. Her face went the color of bone. She sent for Naruto. He was in her office within minutes. He read the message once. How long ago? His voice was the same temperature it always was, but something behind it had changed, the way the surface of the ocean doesn't move when a current shifts beneath it. 12 hours. Team composition? Kakashi, Sakura, you. I'm sending word to Sans Council. Chiyoba-sama will meet you at the border. Tsunade leaned forward. Naruto, they have Gaara. He folded the message, set it on her desk. His face was still. His eyes were still. Everything about him was still in the way that the air before a storm is still. Not for long, he said. The journey to Suna took 2 days at full speed. Team Kakashi moved through the desert like arrows. Kakashi, Sakura, Naruto, and Chiyo of the Sand joining them at the border. Her ancient face hard with the same kind of fury that makes grandmothers the most dangerous people in any room. Naruto said little during the journey. He ran at the front, his coat streaming behind him, his face forward. The others felt the pressure rolling off him. Not killing intent, not the power of destruction. Something more personal. A promise being violated, a decision being tested. The nearest anyone had ever come to making Naruto Uzumaki something other than composed, and even now, what radiated from him was not rage, it was finality. The Akatsuki lair was a massive stone formation, sealed, warded, hidden behind a barrier that required simultaneous removal at 5 points across the landscape. Guy's team handled the barrier. Team Kakashi entered the moment it fell. Inside, a cavern the size of a cathedral. And at its center, on a stone platform beneath a statue with 9 eyes, lay Gaara, motionless, pale. His red hair, the same shade as Naruto's, a coincidence that had never felt like one, spread beneath his head like a bloodstain. His eyes were closed. His chest did not move. 2 figures stood at the cavern's edges. Deidara, blonde, one eye hidden behind a scope, hands working white clay between mechanical mouths. Sasori, hunched inside his puppet shell, the scorpion tail curving above him. Oh, Deidara's visible eye widened. Visitors! And so fast, I was hoping for more time to appreciate my latest masterpiece. He looked at Naruto. He stopped talking because Naruto was looking at Gaara. Only at Gaara. And the expression on his face was the kind of expression that makes intelligent creatures understand, in their bones, that what happens next is not going to be a conversation. Sasori, my man, Deidara said. His voice had changed. Higher. Faster. That's him. That's the Crimson. I know who it is. Sasori's voice was flat inside his puppet shell, a grinding, hollow sound. I read the intelligence. Reading about it and seeing it are different things, Deidara was already reaching into his clay pouch with both hands. Cover me. We're S-rank criminals, Deidara. We do not need. Naruto raised his eyes from Gaara's body. He looked at them. Deidara threw everything he had. A cloud of clay creatures erupted from his hands. Birds, spiders, centipedes, each one molded with explosive chakra, each one a C4 level detonation packed into a form no larger than a fist. Hundreds of them swarming through the cavern air like a blizzard of white death, all converging on the red-haired figure standing in the entrance. They reached him. They stopped existing, not one at a time. All at once, the swarm hit the radius of Naruto's body, that invisible shell of destruction that existed as naturally as his heartbeat, and vanished. No detonation, no flash, no sound of impact. Hundreds of explosive creatures simply were not there anymore. The air they had occupied was empty, vacanti. Deidara's hands dropped. His visible eye went wide enough to show white all the way around. That's impossible, he breathed. My art is an explosion, it's supposed to. Your art is nothing. Naruto's voice carried through the cavern. Level, final. You make noise, I make absence. You, Deidara's face twisted. His left hand dove deep into the clay pouch and emerged with something different. A massive concentration of explosive chakra, the kind of self-destructive technique reserved for absolute desperation. His ultimate technique. I'll show you art, you arrogant. Zero! Naruto! Sakura shouted from behind him. Naruto raised one finger. A pinpoint of crimson light bloomed at its tip. Not a beam, just a point. A star the size of a marble, glowing with the absolute, total power of erasure. Deidara's ultimate technique, the concentrated explosive chakra building in his chest, the one that would have leveled the cavern and everything within a kilometer of it, flickered. Then it was not there. The chakra inside his body, the explosive element in his clay, the mechanical mouths on his palms that processed the material, all of it, gone, not discharged, not detonated. Removed from existence the way a word is removed from a page when someone rewrites the sentence. Deidara looked at his hands. The mouths were gone. The clay was gone. His chakra, the specific Kekkei Genkai element that made him what he was, absent. He flexed his fingers and felt nothing. He was a sculptor whose hands had been emptied of every tool, every material, every capacity he'd ever possessed. He sank to his knees. His face was blank with incomprehension. Sasori moved. The puppet shell cracked open. Hiriko, his outer defense, splitting apart as Sasori emerged in his true form. Young, beautiful, a body that was not a body, wooden and preserved and eternal, the living puppet that had made itself into a weapon. Behind him, a scroll unfurled, and from it erupted his masterwork. 100 puppets, the Red Secret Technique, the collection that had conquered an entire nation. 100 figures rising on chakra strings, filling the cavern ceiling with wood and blades and poison. They descended on Naruto like a wooden avalanche. The crimson aura expanded. Not a dome, not a shield, just a breath, a single outward pulse of what Naruto was, rippling through the air like a wave through water. Every puppet that entered its radius began to disintegrate, not splintering, not breaking. The wood ceased. The metal ceased. The chakra strings connecting them to Sasori's fingers ceased. One by one, then 10 by 10, then all at once. 100 puppets dissolving in midair like sand in a rising tide, leaving nothing behind. Not sawdust, not fragments, nothing. Sasori's collection, his lifetime of work, the army that had defined him as one of the most dangerous beings alive, gone. His fingers hung in the air, connected to nothing. His face, the beautiful, preserved, ageless face he designed for himself, showed the first genuine emotion it had displayed in 20 years. Loss. Naruto walked toward the center of the cavern, past Deidara, kneeling and empty, past Sasori, standing and hollow, toward the stone platform where Gaara lay. Behind him, Sakura and Kakashi stood at the entrance. Neither moved. There was nothing for them to do here. This had been decided the moment Naruto walked in. Chiyo was trembling. Her old eyes that had seen wars, that had sealed demons, that had watched the shinobi world shape itself over 7 decades, were fixed on the red-haired boy who had just dismantled 2 S-rank criminals in less than 15 seconds without raising his voice. "What is he?" she whispered. "Something new," Kakashi said. His Sharingan was uncovered. It was spinning, and its rotation was slower than usual, as if even the dojutsu knew that what it was recording exceeded its design parameters. Naruto reached Gaara. He stood over the body of the Kazekage, the boy who had been a weapon, who had become a leader, who had been killed by people who saw the demon inside him and nothing else. Gaara's face was slack, peaceful in a way it had never been in life. His gourd was gone. The sand that had defined him, scattered somewhere in the extraction process, stripped from him along with everything else. Naruto knelt. He placed one hand on Gaara's chest. He closed his eyes. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then crimson light bloomed beneath his palm. Not outward, inward, not destruction, something else. The same energy, the same absolute force, but turned in a direction no one in this world had ever seen it move. Instead of erasing what was there, it filled what was absent. Instead of making things stop, it made something start. The power of destruction, inverted. Not a hand that takes away, a hand that pushes back against the void and says no. Not this one. Not yet. The crimson light sank into Gaara's chest like water into parched earth. It found the emptiness where Shukaku had been ripped away. It found the damage, the torn chakra network, the shredded life force, the specific catastrophic absence that a tailed beast extraction leaves in its wake. And it filled that space. Not with power, not with a demon, with warmth. With the same warmth that Naruto carried in his chest for everyone he called his. Gaara's fingers twitched. His chest rose, his eyes opened, teal, clear, alive. He looked up, the crimson light fading from the palm on his chest, and then past it, to the face above him. Red hair falling forward, blue eyes like warm and certain and impossibly glad. Gaara stared at Naruto for a long time, long enough for Chiyo to start crying, long enough for Sakura to grab Kakashi's sleeve, long enough for the silence to become something holy. "You came," Gaara said. His voice was raw, a desert with its first rain. "I told you," Naruto said. "I don't throw people away." Gaara's hand rose, trembling, uncertain, reaching for Naruto's arm the way someone reaches for a doorframe in an earthquake. He gripped out, he held. "Thank you," Gaara whispered, and then after another moment, "I am very tired. Rest." Naruto pulled his hand back, the last of the crimson light faded. "You're safe." Gaara's eyes closed. He slept. Not the sleep of the dead, the sleep of the living, as breathing and real, his chest rising and falling in the rhythm of someone who would wake up tomorrow and every day after that. Temari and Kankuro arrived 30 minutes later. They found their brother alive and two Akatsuki operatives sitting against opposite walls with the specific, vacant expressions of men who had just discovered that everything they were could be removed between one heartbeat and the next. Kankuro looked at Naruto. He's fine." Naruto was leaning against the cavern wall, arms folded, expression mild. "Your brother is fine. Take him home. Let him sleep for 3 days. And when he wakes up, tell him I said the job suits him." Temari's eyes were wet. She didn't trust her voice. She nodded. They left Suna with the Kazekage alive and two former S-rank criminals sealed in transport scrolls, stripped of every ability that had made them threats. Naruto walked out of that cavern the same way he'd walked in, steady, unhurried, the afternoon sun catching his hair like a crown of fire. Chiyo walked beside him for a while. Her old legs moved slowly, but her eyes were sharp and full of something that looked like reverence fought to a draw against scientific curiosity. "That technique," she said. "At the end, when you brought him back." "Yes, I was going to use my own, the one's own life reincarnation. It would have cost me my life." "I know. You saved me too then." Naruto looked at her, smiled. "Living is better, Chiyo-sama. You have grandchildren who need you." She laughed, cracked and surprised and real. "You're an impossible boy." "I've been told." 8 months later, the 5 Kage summit was announced. The Akatsuki had not stopped. Deidara and Sasori's defeat had accelerated their timeline. Fewer operatives meant more desperate measures, and the whispers from the intelligence networks were growing louder. Something was building. A plan beyond individual tailed beast captures. A design that required all 9 and would not wait for subtlety. The summit convened in Kirigakure, the village of the Bloody Mist, now under new leadership. Its streets still carrying the scars of decades of internal slaughter, but its people standing straighter than they had in living memory. The invitation extended to all 5 Kage, their guards and their advisors. Tsunade brought Naruto, not as a guard, not as an advisor, as a statement. She was the Hokage and she was powerful, and she knew, with the hard-earned pragmatism of a woman who had led through a war, that the thing standing at her left shoulder was the most effective argument she could make without saying a word. The summit hall was an old structure, stone walls, high ceilings, a circular table of ancient wood with seats for 5. The delegations filed in. The Tsuchikage, Onoki, ancient and small, and carrying the weight of 3 generations of grudges. The Raikage, massive, muscular, crackling with barely contained lightning, his voice 2 decibels louder than any room required. The Kazekage, Gaara, young and alive, and carrying himself with the specific dignity of someone who had been to the other side and come back with better priorities. And the Mizukage. Mei Terumi entered last. She moved the way certain people move when they have spent their entire lives being the most significant presence in every space they occupy. Not with arrogance, but with the effortless certainty of someone who knows exactly how much room they deserve and takes it without asking. Tall, auburn hair falling in waves past one shoulder, partially covering one eye. Features that belonged in poetry, a figure that belonged in war. The combination of those 2 things creating something that drew every eye in the room and held them there. She had rebuilt Kirigakure from the inside out, torn down the Bloody Mist era with her own hands, literally in some cases. 2 Kekkei Genkai, a will of iron wrapped in silk, the kind of woman who could dissolve a man's armor with lava release and his arguments with a single sentence. She took her seat. Her visible eye, green, sharp, knowing, swept the room, passed over the Tsuchikage, the Raikage, Gaara, landed on Naruto, stopped. He was standing behind Tsunade's chair, arms at his sides, red hair loose, that coat, black with crimson lining, hanging from his shoulders like it was designed for throne rooms instead of battlefields. His face was turned slightly toward the window, the light catching the planes of his jaw and cheek. those blue eyes distant and present simultaneously. Mei stared. For 3 full seconds, longer than she had stared at anything in a professional setting since the day she took office, she stared. Then she recovered. Smoothly, almost imperceptibly. She crossed her legs, folded her hands on the table, and directed her attention to the Hokage. Almost imperceptibly. Naruto noticed. The corner of his mouth moved. The summit began. Onoki spoke first. The Akatsuki, the threat, the need for coordination. His voice was the voice of a man who had seen too much war and expected to see more. Gaara followed, measured, precise, carrying the weight of someone who had been personally victimized by the organization under discussion and refused to let that make him irrational. The Rake slammed the table. We know what they want. We know where they are. What we lack is the resolve to act. My brother, Killer B, they will come for him next. Resolve without coordination is just aggression, Gaara said. Do not lecture me on. Enough. Mei's voice cut through the room like warm steel. We're here to plan, not posture. A paused. Then the Tsuchikage leaned forward. What I want to know, he said, his ancient voice carrying the specific condescension of someone who believes age equals authority, is why we're treating the Akatsuki as an existential threat at all. They are 9 criminals in matching cloaks. We are 5 nations with 5 armies. If with respect, Tsuchikage Dono, Tsunade interrupted, they are 9 S-rank criminals who have already captured 7-tailed beasts. 7, Onoki repeated. Out of 9. And yet I noticed 2 of those extractions were interrupted, one by your village's asset. His eyes flicked to Naruto. The word asset carried the weight of skepticism. This Crimson Satan that your intelligence reports have been advertising so aggressively. Tsunade's jaw tightened. Onoki waved a wrinkled hand. Every village has its legends, Hokage Dono. Every nation inflates its weapons. I've been in this business long enough to know that reputation and reality are distant cousins at best. The room shifted. The Raikage leaned back. Even Gaara's expression flickered. Not with agreement, but with the awareness that a confrontation was approaching. Naruto had not moved. Onoki continued. Your boy erased some sand and frightened some genin. Impressive for a Chunin exam. But we are discussing a global military threat. You'll forgive an old man his skepticism that a teenager from a village that was nearly destroyed by a single rogue ninja 3 years ago possesses the capacity to. Tsuchikage-sama, Naruto's voice, the same as it always was, warm, smooth, respectful. The entire room turned toward him. Even the guards along the wall shifted. He stepped forward. 1 step, away from Tsunade's chair and into the open space beside the table. I understand skepticism, he said. It's reasonable. Words are free. So let me offer something more expensive. He raised his right hand, extended 1 finger, pointed it at the center of the summit table, where a stone monument sat, 3 tons of carved granite bearing the crests of all 5 nations, an ancient piece commissioned at the founding of the summit tradition. No light gathered, no sound preceded it. The fingertip simply pointed, and the monument was simply gone. 3 tons of ancient stone, historic, irreplaceable, occupying a space that was now empty air above the table's wooden surface. Not a speck of dust remained, not a fragment of carving. The space where it had been was the purest absence anyone in that room had ever perceived. So clean, so complete, that the eye kept trying to put something back there because the emptiness itself felt wrong, silence. Every Kage in the room was motionless. Onoki's mouth was open. No sound emerged. The Raikage's hand, which had been resting on the table, was now 2 inches above it, as if the table itself might be next. Gaara was the only one who didn't react. He'd seen this before. From the other side, Naruto lowered his finger. The rumor, he said, was underreported. Mei Terumi was staring, not at where the monument had been, at Naruto. Her visible eye was wide, not with fear, with something far more complicated. Something that moved through surprise and assessment and arrived at a destination that made her press her lips together and look away with a very specific expression that she would deny making if anyone asked. The summit continued. No one questioned Konoha's capabilities again. The hours that followed were productive. Alliance structures, communication protocols, intelligence sharing, the formation of a joint shinobi force in the event of open war. Naruto spoke rarely, but what he said was absorbed completely. He outlined the Akatsuki's likely next moves with the accuracy of someone who had spent 2.5 years studying the chessboard and already knew where every piece was going. By the end, the alliance was not a suggestion. It was a fact. Afterward, the delegations dispersed to their assigned quarters. The sun set over Kirigakure's bay, painting the water copper and amber. Naruto stood on the balcony of the Konoha delegation's wing. The evening air was salt and fog. He'd taken off his coat. His shirt sleeves were rolled to the elbow. His red hair moved in the sea breeze. Footsteps behind him, measured, confident. The particular rhythm of someone who does not adjust their stride for anyone. Naruto Uzumaki. He turned. Mei Terumi stood in the balcony doorway. She had changed from her Kaji robes into something simpler, a blue dress, high-necked, that managed to be both modest and devastating simultaneously. Her hair was down. Her visible eye held the particular sharp light of someone who has made a decision to be direct. Mizukage-sama. Mei. She leaned against the doorframe, crossed her arms. We've moved past titles, I think. You erased a monument during my summit. That earns a first-name basis at minimum. Mei, then. He inclined his head. How can I help? You can explain yourself. That's a broad request. I'm a broad woman. She didn't smile, not quite, but the corner of her mouth moved. I've been the strongest person in my village since I was 17. I rebuilt Kirigakure from ashes. I have 2 Kekkei Genkai, neither of which is decorative. I am not easily made to feel. She searched for the word. Small? Naruto offered. Insufficient. Her eye found his. And you, standing behind a chair all day looking like someone's painting come to life, made every Kage in that room feel like children at a grown-up's table, including me. I disliked that feeling. I noticed, and yet you did it anyway. The Tsuchikage needed context. The most efficient context was visual. Mei pushed off the doorframe, walked to the balcony railing, stood beside him, not close enough to touch, but close enough that the salt air moved between them without distance to dilute it. How old are you? She asked. 16. 16. She shook her head. One strand of auburn hair caught the fading light. I have battle scars older than you, and I have memories older than this world. He said it without weight, a fact. The same way someone might mention the weather. Mei looked at him. This time she didn't look away. Memories of what? Another life. Another name. Another. He paused. Scale. Will you tell me about it? Someday. Why not now? He turned to face her fully. The last of the sunset caught his eyes and turned them luminous. That deep blue shot through with violet, the color of things that exist at the boundary between comprehension and mystery. Because I'd rather know about this one, he said. Your life, your name, your scale. Those are more interesting to me right now. Mei Terumi blinked. The confidence that armored her, the razor wit, the iron composure, flickered. Just barely. Just enough that for one moment, the woman underneath the Kage was visible, and she was surprised to find herself there. That, she said, is the most effectively disarming thing anyone has ever said to me. Is it working? Annoyingly. She looked back at the water. Her expression settled into something between amused and cautious. I'm going to want to see you again after this summit. Good. Naruto looked at the water too, because I'm going to make sure you do. They stood in the salt air until the stars came out. They did not touch. They did not need to. What passed between them in that silence was the beginning of something that would grow the way mountains grow, imperceptibly until it's suddenly undeniable that the landscape has changed. 2 months after the summit, Itachi Uchiha appeared in Konoha. Not through the gate, not through the Anbu perimeter. He was simply there, sitting on a bench in a park at 3 a.m, his Akatsuki cloak folded beside him, his body thin and his face gaunt, and his breathing carrying the specific wet rattle of lungs that had decided to stop working. Naruto found him. Of course Naruto found him. The Sharingan might see everything, but Naruto felt everything, every significant presence within range of his awareness, and Itachi Uchiha had always been significant. He sat down beside the dying man, said nothing, waited. You knew I would come, Itachi said. His voice was thin. I knew you would need to. Itachi was silent for a while. The park was empty. Somewhere in the village, a dog barked and fell silent. The moon hung overhead, a sliver of white in a sky full of stars. My brother. Itachi's hands were in his lap, pale, thin, marked with the specific bruising of someone whose blood no longer remembered how to stay where it belonged. He is strong now. Stronger than you expected. Stronger than I hoped. A pause. And that terrifies me, because when we fight, and we will fight, he will win. And then he will learn what it means to win against me, what my death will tell him about why I did what I did. Toby will reach him first. Itachi's eyes closed. Yes, he'll tell Sasuke the truth about the massacre, about Danzo, about the village, about you. Yes, and you're afraid of what that truth will do to him. Itachi opened his eyes, looked at Naruto. In the moonlight, the Sharingan was not active. His eyes were black, exhausted, ancient, carrying the weight of a crime committed in love and paid for in loneliness every day since. I have lived with it, Itachi said, because I chose it. But Sasuke did not choose it. He was given a story, a lie, and he built himself around that lie. When the lie is removed, his voice broke, a crack so small most ears would miss it. But it was there. I do not know what remains. What remains, Naruto said, is me. Itachi looked at him. When Sasuke learns what you did, when the ground opens beneath his understanding of everything, I will be standing beside him, not ahead of him, not above him, beside, the way I have been since the Valley of the End. Naruto met Itachi's eyes with perfect steadiness. Your brother will not burn this world down because you loved him too much to let him see clearly. I will make sure of it, not with force, with presence, the same presence that brought him home once already. Itachi's jaw tightened. His eyes glistened. He looked away, toward the moon, toward the sky, toward something that might have been the future he would not live to see. You are the kindest weapon I have ever encountered, Itachi whispered. I'm not a weapon. Naruto leaned back on the bench. I'm a person who refuses to let people I care about make choices they can't come back from. That includes your brother, and that includes you. Me? Go to him, Itachi. Fight him. Give him the closure he needs. But know before you go that what you did was not wasted. The village stands. Sasuke lives. And the system that made your sacrifice necessary is something I am going to dismantle, stone by stone, until no 13-year-old is ever asked to choose between their family and their home again. Itachi was very still. For a long time, neither of them moved. Then Itachi stood. He picked up his cloak. He did not put it on. Will you remember me? He asked. After. Yes. As what? Naruto looked up at him. The moonlight fell across both their faces, one dying, one eternal. One who had sacrificed everything, one who would never have to. As someone who loved his brother so completely that he became a villain to keep him alive, Naruto said. As someone who deserved better than this world gave him. As someone who, in a perfect world, would have been my friend. Itachi's face did something it had not done in 13 years. The muscles around his eyes softened. His mouth moved. Not a smile, but the ghost of one. The memory of what smiling felt like before the weight of the world made it impossible. Thank you, he said. He left. Into the night, carrying his folded cloak and his ruined lungs, and the first peace he had known since the night the Uchiha compound went silent. 3 weeks later, Itachi found Sasuke in the ruins of an Uchiha outpost. They fought. It was everything Itachi had designed it to be. A final test, a final gift, a final act of love disguised as violence. Sasuke deployed everything he had built over the years, every technique, every ounce of his growth, and Itachi received it all with the tired, proud, loving eyes of a brother who had been waiting for this day the way a man with a terminal illness waits for the end of pain. Itachi died with his fingers on Sasuke's forehead, the same place he'd always poked him as a child. His last word was a name, Sasuke's name, spoken without suffix, without distance. Just the name of the person he loved most, offered into the air like a prayer as his body stopped and his eyes closed, and the greatest sacrifice the Hidden Leaf had ever produced ended in a collapsed building with no witnesses except the boy he'd done it all for. Sasuke stood over the body, victorious. Destroyed, Toby came within the hour. The mask, the single Sharingan eye, the voice that carried truth like a weapon. Let me tell you about your brother, Toby said. And he told him everything. The coup d'etat planned by the Uchiha clan, Danzo's ultimatum, the third Hokage's helplessness, the impossible choice, clan or village, family or home. A 13-year-old boy choosing to kill everyone he loved to save the brother he loved most, and then exile, villainhood. A decade of suffering in silence, wearing the mask of a monster, all to protect a brother who would grow strong on hatred and never know the truth. Sasuke listened. His face was stone. His body was stone. Everything about him was stone, hard and rigid and one tap away from shattering into dust. When Toby finished, Sasuke said nothing for a long time. Then, leave. Sasuke, leave now. His voice was not loud. It was empty. A vessel with everything poured out. Toby left. He was patient. He could wait for the hatred to crystallize. He had 20 years of practice at waiting. But what crystallized was not hatred, because Naruto was there. He appeared at the entrance of the ruined building 15 minutes after Toby left. He did not announce himself. He did not speak. He walked over the rubble, around the fallen beams, and sat down on a piece of broken wall 3 feet from where Sasuke stood over his brother's body. He sat, and he waited. Sasuke did not move for another 10 minutes. Then his knees buckled. He went down. Not a collapse, not a fall, just the simple mechanical failure of a body whose owner was no longer giving it instructions. He hit the ground beside Itachi, and his hands went to his brother's cloak, and his face went into the fabric, and the sound that came out of him was not crying. It was older than crying. It was the noise a human makes when everything they believed about themselves is rewritten without permission. Naruto sat beside him, close enough to reach, not reaching. Giving Sasuke the space to break without making the breaking feel observed, minutes passed. The sound faded. Sasuke's breathing changed, from ragged to exhausted to the flat, hollow rhythm of someone who has emptied themselves completely and is just a container now, waiting to see what fills the space. "Did you know?" Sasuke asked. His voice was muffled. His face was still pressed into Itachi's cloak. "Yes. How long?" "Long enough." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because he asked me not to. And because hearing it from me was not what you needed. You needed to fight him, to win, to stand over the thing you've been chasing your whole life and find it before the context arrived." Naruto's voice was steady, gentle. "If I'd told you before, you would have gone to him differently, and he designed this ending for you. It was his last gift. I wasn't going to take that from either of you." Sasuke was silent for a long time. Then he raised his head. His face was wet. His Sharingan was not active. His eyes were just eyes, black, red-rimmed, exhausted, alive. "I want to kill them," he said. "Danzo, the elders, everyone who—" "I know." Naruto met his gaze. "And I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't feel that. What was done to your family and your brother was wrong, that it was a crime committed by frightened men who chose genocide over conversation, and they have never been held accountable for it." "Then, but Sasuke." Naruto leaned forward, not threatening, not restraining, just present the way the earth is present beneath your feet. "If you burn Konoha to the ground, Itachi died for nothing. His entire sacrifice, every year of suffering, every night of exile, every moment he spent as a villain, so his brother could live in a village that was still standing, all of it becomes meaningless." Sasuke's fists clenched. "I'm going to dismantle the system that made this possible," Naruto said. "Not with fire, with precision. Danzo will answer. The elders will answer. The structures that allowed an entire clan to be exterminated in one night by its own child will be taken apart until they cannot reform. That is happening. That is guaranteed." He put his hand on Sasuke's shoulder. "But I need you to still be here when it's done. Not in a cell. Not as a rogue. Here. Standing next to me the way Itachi wanted you to, alive and free and building something instead of burning it." Sasuke stared at him. The rage was still there, hot and enormous and screaming for action. But behind it, under it, held in check by the weight of the hand on his shoulder and the absolute certainty in those blue eyes, was something else. Trust. The kind you can only give to someone who has caught you every single time you've fallen. "I hate this," Sasuke said. "I know. I hate that you're right. I know that too." Sasuke's head dropped. His forehead touched Naruto's shoulder. Not leaning, resting. The briefest, smallest concession to the fact that he could not hold this alone and did not have to. "Don't let them get away with it," Sasuke whispered. "Never." They stayed that way until the sun set. Then they stood, and they carried Itachi's body home together. The burial was private. A hillside outside Konoha, overlooking the village Itachi had loved enough to destroy himself for. Sasuke, Naruto, Kakashi, the third Hokage's memorial stone nearby. The old man would have understood. A grave without a headstone, because some sacrifices are not for public consumption. Danzo disappeared 6 days later. Not killed, not arrested, disappeared. His residence was empty. His root operatives found their seals deactivated. Every binding tongue seal, every loyalty modification, every piece of Danzo's control infrastructure erased as cleanly as if it had never been applied. Foundation agents woke up free for the first time in decades, blinking in sunlight they'd forgotten existed, their mouths able to form words they'd been forbidden from speaking. No one could prove Naruto had done it, but no one doubted it either. The elders retired, suddenly, voluntarily, with expressions on their faces that suggested the alternative had been described to them in vivid and absolute terms. Sasuke watched it happen. He did not smile, but the stone in his chest, the one that had been there since the massacre, the one that had grown heavier with every lie, began, imperceptibly, to dissolve. The world did not allow them peace for long. Pain came on a morning that started with birdsong and ended with ruin. 6 bodies, 6 paths, 6 sets of eyes bearing the legendary Rinnegan, each one a weapon of impossible power wielded by a single dying man in a tower of paper miles away. They descended on Konoha like a judgment, a cold, furious, impossibly powerful judgment. And the village that had survived invasions and wars and decades of internal conflict found itself, for the first time, facing something it had absolutely no answer for. Naruto was not there. He was 3 hours away, returning from a mission in the Northern Territories with a team that didn't matter, because the moment the message reached him, everything else stopped mattering. The invasion lasted those 3 hours. In that time, Pain dismantled Konoha with a thoroughness that bordered on religious. Buildings fell, streets crumbled, the Hokage Tower, symbol of generations of leadership, collapsed under the animal path summoned beasts. Shinobi fought and fell, Iruka fought, Konohamaru fought. The entire village fought, and they were losing. Kakashi faced the God Realm. He was brilliant. He was everything a shinobi could be. Fast, creative, loyal, pushing his Sharingan to its absolute limit, using every technique in his arsenal with the precision of a man who had spent his entire career preparing for impossible odds. He was brilliant, and it was not enough. The God Realm raised its hand. Shinra Tensei. The gravitational pulse caught Kakashi mid-dodge. His body ragdolled through 3 walls. He hit the ground on the other side with the specific sickening sound of a body reaching the limit of what it can absorb. He lay in the rubble. His breath came in wet gasps. His Sharingan eye dimmed. Above him, the Deva path descended. Orange hair, Rinnegan eyes, the face of a corpse given purpose. "Where is the Nine Tails?" it asked. Kakashi looked up. Blood on his face, one eye closed, his body broken. And he smiled, the tired, defiant, absolute smile of someone who knows something the person standing over them does not. "Coming," Kakashi said. And then the sky changed. It happened all at once. Not gradually, all at once. The atmosphere developed weight. The air turned faintly red at its edges. Not a genjutsu, not an illusion, but the actual physical air of Konohagakure, gaining a crimson tint as though the world itself was blushing. Every bird within the village walls launched from every surface simultaneously and fled. Dogs howled, cats ran. Every animal, from the Inuzuka kennels to the messenger hawks to Tora the escaped cat, reacted at the same instant with the same primal message. Something is here. All 6 pain bodies stopped moving, simultaneously. 6 bodies controlled by a single mind, and that single mind halted all 6 of them at once, because every sensory input it possessed was screaming the same information at the same volume. The thing they came here for has arrived, and we should not be here. Naruto landed in the center of the ruined village. He did not drop from the sky with force. He sat down like a leaf settling on water, feet touching rubble, coat settling around him, hair falling into place. He stood in the crater that had been the main road and looked around, at the ruins, at the fallen buildings, at the bodies he could see from where he stood, at the dust still settling from the last collapse, at his home, his village, torn apart by people who thought the thing they were hunting was something they could capture. His expression did not change. It didn't need to. What rolled off him spoke louder than any face could manage. A wave, invisible, intangible, but felt by every living thing in a 3-kilometer radius, of something that was not killing intent. Killing intent was a threat. This was not a threat. This was a fact. The fact of absolute, total, unconditional annihilation available at the speed of a decision. Every pained body turned toward him. The Deva Path, the leader, the strongest, the one with Yihiko's face and Nagato's will, stood on the ruins of the Hokage Tower and looked down at the red-haired figure in the streets below. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, it said. At last. Naruto looked up at it. You hurt my village. 3 words. Spoken with no elevation in volume, no change in temperature. The exact same warm, even voice he used to order ramen. Every surviving shinobi in the area felt their spine lock. The animal path moved first, summoning. A massive dog, multi-headed, regenerating, the size of a 3-story building, materialized in a cloud of smoke and charged. Naruto raised his hand. Crimson ruin. A wave of red light, thin, fast, horizontal, left his palm and swept through the summoned beast like a blade through fog. The dog ceased. From nose to tail in a single instant, all mass, all chakra, all existence simply stopping. The upper half of the creature was gone before the lower half registered it. Then the lower half was gone too. Then the smoke. Then the ground it had been standing on, to a depth of 6 inches. The animal path summoned 3 more. A bird, a chameleon, a rhino. Naruto didn't lower his hand. 3 pulses of crimson light, 3 extinctions. No sound, no residue, no evidence that anything had stood in those spaces except the absence itself. The animal path stared at its empty hands. Naruto walked forward. The Preta path moved to intercept. The absorber, the one designed to eat ninjutsu, to drain techniques, to nullify energy-based attacks by consuming them. It placed itself directly in Naruto's path and activated its absorption barrier. Naruto walked into it. The barrier made contact with his aura, and the barrier stopped existing. Not absorbed, not overpowered. The concept of absorption itself became irrelevant. You cannot eat what unmakes you. The Preta path's ability failed, and then the Preta path itself failed. The crimson aura reaching its body and beginning the systematic cessation of everything it was, from the feet upward. Shinra Tensei. The Deva path fired its gravitational repulsion. The same technique that had flattened an entire section of the village, the same force that had broken Kakashi, focused entirely on the figure walking up the ruined street. The invisible wall of force hit Naruto. Nothing happened. The gravitational repulsion, capable of leveling city blocks, of reducing buildings to rubble, of crushing anything in its path regardless of composition or durability, reached the edge of his aura and was unmade. You cannot push something that exists beyond the physics your technique operates within. You cannot apply force to something that has already decided force is optional. The Deva path fired again, and again, 3 times. Each pulse weaker as the 5-second cooldown shortened its intervals. None of them moved Naruto by a single centimeter. He kept walking. The human path tried. Rushing forward, hand extended toward Naruto's head. The soul extraction technique, designed to rip the spirit from the body. Its fingers touched Naruto's hair. Its arm stopped existing. From fingertip to shoulder, an instant erasure that left nothing to bleed from. The human path staggered backward, looked at the smooth absence where its arm had been, and then looked up at Naruto's face. Naruto hadn't broken stride. The Asura path, the mechanical one, the living weapon, the body converted into armored artillery. It opened its chest and fired everything. Missiles, beams, shrapnel, the full complement of its modifications deployed in a single devastating barrage. Naruto raised one finger. A single line of crimson light traced through the air, connecting every missile, every beam, every piece of shrapnel in the barrage like a thread through scattered pearls. The line touched each one. Each one ceased. The entire barrage, an attack that could have leveled a fortress, winked out of existence in a chain reaction that took less than a second. Then the line reached the Asura path itself. It traveled up the last missile's trajectory back to the chest it had emerged from, and the mechanical body dissolved from the center outward. Gone. 4 paths down. 2 remaining. Naruto stopped walking. He stood in the rubble of the main road, his coat unstained, his hair unmoved, his expression carrying the specific weight of someone who is not fighting but correcting. On the rooftops, the ridgelines, the broken walls still standing, the surviving shinobi of Konoha watched. Kakashi propped against a piece of wall by a medical ninja, his one functioning eye locked on the figure below. Sakura, bruised and bloodied, her healing hand still glowing green over a wounded Chunin. Her face turned toward Naruto with an expression that mixed awe with something like grief for the people who didn't survive long enough to see this. Shikamaru. Hinata. Her Byakugan active, her face pale, her hands trembling, not with fear, but with the overwhelming input of watching something her eyes were not built to comprehend at full resolution. Konohamaru, 12 years old, blood on his face, sitting in rubble with his eyes so wide they took up half his face. That's boss. The Naraka path moved. Its mouth opened. The summoning technique for the King of Hell, the restoration path, the one that could repair the other bodies. Naruto looked at it. Just looked. A flicker of crimson light, so brief it might have been imagined, passed through the air between them, the Naraka path's connection to its summoning contract severed. Not the body, the technique itself. The link between this corpse and the entity it called upon, erased. The mouth closed. The eyes went blank. It collapsed like a puppet with its strings cut, which is exactly what it had always been. The Deva path. Alone, Yahiko's face, Nagato's will, the strongest body, the primary weapon, the final piece of a dead man's ambition given form. It looked at Naruto with those ringed eyes, the Rinnegan, the eyes of the Sage of Six Paths, the most legendary dojutsu in the shinobi world, and Naruto could see behind them, could feel behind them. The thread of chakra running back through the ruined landscape, through the air, to a tower of paper in the forest outside the village where a crippled man in a mechanical chair was watching everything through borrowed eyes. You cannot stop pain, the Deva path said. Its voice was Nagato's voice, filtered through dead vocal cords, but carrying the absolute conviction of the living man behind it. You cannot stop suffering. You can only make it shared. Make it universal. Make it. Naruto closed his hand. The Deva path stopped, not frozen, not restrained. It simply ceased, from every angle at once, the crimson light touching it from all directions simultaneously and leaving nothing. No body, no Rinnegan eyes, no final words, just empty air and the specific ringing silence of something that had been speaking and was now permanently not. 6 paths of pain. Destroyed in under 2 minutes. Naruto stood in the ruins of his village and turned his face toward the forest, toward the paper tower, toward the dying man who had sent an army against his home. He moved, not running, walking, through the broken streets, past the collapsed buildings, over the rubble and the ruin, walking with the unhurried certainty of someone who knows that what waits at the end of this walk cannot escape and has nowhere to hide, that he cannot reach. The paper tower opened before he arrived. Conan, blue-haired, amber-eyed, the last member of the trio that had started with a dream and ended in the rain, stood at the entrance. She did not attack. She did not block his path. She looked at him with the expression of someone who has spent their life following a plan and has just watched that plan disintegrate. He's inside, she said. Her voice was flat, exhausted. I know. Naruto stopped in front of her. Will you let me in? Would it matter if I didn't? It would to me. She stared at him, then stepped aside. Inside, the chamber, the mechanical chair, the tubes and the pain in the gaunt, wasted frame of Nagato, red hair the same shade as Naruto's, Rinnegan eyes sunk into a skull that was more bone than face. The most powerful man in the world who couldn't stand on his own legs. They looked at each other. 2 redheads, 2 people who had been shaped by the same village's legacy, the hidden rain, the hidden leaf, and the web of tragedy that connected them through Jiraiya, through pain, through the specific grief of being told the world has to work this way, and being unable to accept it. You're stronger than anything I've prepared for, Nagato said. His voice was raw, honest. I watched through the Deva Path's eyes. I watched you erase everything I am in minutes, and I don't understand how. You don't need to understand it. Naruto pulled a chair from the corner, an ordinary wooden chair, incongruous in this cathedral of suffering. He sat. You need to understand why. Why? Why I came here to talk instead of erasing you from outside the building. Naruto leaned forward, elbows on knees. Because you're not a monster, Nagato. You're a man in pain who decided that pain is the only universal truth and built a philosophy around that decision, and you're wrong. Nagato's Rinnegan eyes were steady. I've seen war. I've seen friends die. I felt what? I know what you felt. Naruto's voice was not cold. It was not dismissive. It was the voice of someone who has held destruction itself in his hands since birth and chosen, every single day, not to let it define him. I carry in my body the power to erase anything I choose from existence. Anything. Do you understand what that means? It means every moment of my life is a choice not to destroy. Every breath I take is an active decision that the world around me gets to keep existing. Nagato was silent. Pain is real, Naruto said. Loss is real. The world is full of people who have been broken by both. But the answer to pain is not more pain. The answer to loss is not ensuring everyone else loses too. The answer is building something strong enough that the next generation doesn't break the way we did. And you believe you can build that? I am building that, one person at a time, one choice at a time. And the thing I'm building, the piece I'm constructing, it includes you, if you'll let it. It includes the hidden rain. It includes every person your philosophy would have crushed because you decided they needed to learn what suffering felt like. Nagato's hands, thin, wasted, barely functional, gripped the arms of his chair. Jiraiya-sensei believed the same thing, Nagato whispered. And the world killed him for it. Jiraiya lived long enough to meet me. Naruto's voice softened. And the difference between his dream and his death is that I exist. I am the thing that makes the dream possible. Because I can protect it. Not with philosophy, not with hope, with the absolute, undeniable reality that anyone who tries to break what I build will cease to exist. Nagato looked at him for a long time. The Rinnegan spun, those legendary rings of power and sight cycling with something that might have been thought or might have been the last resistance of a belief system encountering its end. You believe peace can be enforced, Nagato said. I believe peace can be guaranteed by someone strong enough that no one sane would test it. And I believe that under that guarantee, under that certainty, people will learn. Not quickly, not perfectly, but genuinely. Because growth only happens when survival isn't in question. Nagato closed his eyes. Rinne rebirth. Conan's gasp came from behind them. Nagato, no. The people I killed today. Nagato's hands formed the seal. His Rinnegan blazed, both eyes full power, burning with the last of everything he had. I can bring them back, all of them, but it will cost. I know what it costs. Naruto stood, his chair scraped. He looked at the dying man, about to give his last breath for the village he tried to destroy an hour ago. And his expression was not victory. It was not satisfaction. It was the look of someone watching a fellow human being finally find the version of themselves they should have been all along. Too late to live with it, but not too late for it to matter. You are brave, Naruto said. In the end, you are brave. Nagato smiled, thin, exhausted, real. Tell Conan. His voice was fading. The technique was pulling his life from him in real time, trading one existence for dozens, one remaining breath for all the stolen ones. Tell her it was worth it. Being alive, even the painful parts. The light left him. He went still. The mechanical chair powered down. The tube stopped flowing. Nagato, Uzumaki Nagato, the boy from the rain who wanted peace so badly he'd burned the world trying to find it, was gone. Conan was on her knees. Paper fluttered from her body, involuntary, her technique responding to grief she couldn't contain. Tears fell from amber eyes on the paper wings. Naruto knelt beside her, not touching, just present. He said it was worth it, Naruto said, being alive. Conan's breath shuddered. Her head rose. She looked at the red-haired boy kneeling beside her. This impossible person who had destroyed her partner's life's work in 2 minutes and then sat down to save his soul. And the hatred she should have felt was simply not there. There was no room for it. What filled its space was something she didn't have a name for. What do I do now? She asked. Her voice was small, smaller than it had been in 20 years. Go home, Naruto said. Rebuild the hidden rain. Make it what Yahiko wanted it to be before the world broke all three of you. She stared at him. Just like that? Just like that. He stood, extended his hand. And if you need help, allies, resources, protection while you rebuild, you know where I am. Conan took his hand. She stood. She looked at Nagato one last time. The shell of the man, the last piece of the boy she'd loved in every way a person can love another. Then she turned away, her paper wings reformed. She moved toward the tower's edge. At the threshold, she stopped. Crimson Satan, she said. Not mockingly, not fearfully, like a name she was deciding to believe in. If you actually build it, this piece, I will see it. And I will know that Nagato's last act made it possible. She flew into the rain, into the hidden rain village that was now hers to rebuild, carrying the weight of two men's legacy and the first hope she'd allowed herself to feel since she was a child in a war zone. Naruto walked home. In Konoha, the dead were breathing again. Kakashi sat up in the rubble with a gasp. Shizune opened her eyes on a medical table. Dozens of shinobi who had died that morning found themselves alive, confused, disoriented, but whole. The village celebrated, and Naruto, walking back through the forest, back toward the broken gates, back toward the people and the rubble and the long work of rebuilding, was met on the road by a woman with auburn hair and green eyes who should not have been there. Mei Terumi stood at the edge of the forest in her traveling clothes, her Kage hat nowhere in sight, her face carrying the specific expression of someone who had received word of an invasion and traveled at top speed for 12 hours without telling anyone where she was going. "You came," Naruto said. "I heard." She stopped, looked him over. No injuries, no dust, no sign whatsoever that this person had just ended a catastrophe. "You're fine. I'm fine. Of course you're fine." She exhaled, hard. Her composure, ironclad, summit-tested, Kage-grade composure, cracked just enough to show something underneath that was not professional and not political and not anything she could put in a report. "I traveled for 12 hours because I thought, I know." He stepped closer, not crowding, just close enough that the space between them became personal instead of polite. "Thank you." She looked at him, his red hair, his blue eyes, the complete absence of anything broken or even ruffled on a person who had just fought a war by himself. "You infuriate me," she said. "I'm told that's one of my better qualities." "It is not a compliment. It might be coming from you." Her mouth pressed into a line. Her eye, the visible one, narrowed. And then, very slowly, the line curved. Not quite a smile, something closer to a concession. "Buy me dinner," she said. "There's rubble everywhere, and I haven't eaten since yesterday. And if you tell anyone the Mizukage showed up uninvited to check on a man half her age, I will dissolve you with lava release." "You can't," he smiled, "but I appreciate the threat." "Infuriating," she repeated. But she fell into step beside him, and they walked back toward the village together, and the space between their shoulders was very, very small. The war came 6 months later. Obito, unmasked, revealed, his identity burning through the alliance like acid through cloth, declared it from behind the remnants of the Akatsuki's forces. The 10 Tails, the infinite Tsukuyomi, a piece built on illusion, powered by the combined chakra of every tailed beast, imposed on the world by a man who had lost the woman he loved and decided reality was not worth living in without her. The 5 nations mobilized. The largest shinobi force in history assembled across the borders of the Land of Iron. 80,000 ninja, every rank, every specialization, every village united under a joint command for the first time since the founding of the hidden villages. And behind the enemy's lines, Kabuto Yakushi played his trump card. Edo Tensei, the reanimation technique. The dead brought back as immortal weapons, their original abilities intact, their bodies indestructible, their wills bound to the summoner's command. Every legendary shinobi the world had buried, every Kage who had passed, every monster the grave had been holding back. They rose, an army of the dead against an army of the living. The scale of it defied comprehension. Battles erupting across a dozen fronts, the living scrambling to contain the immortal, the dead fighting against their own horror at what they've been made to do. Naruto moved through the war like a thread through fabric. Where he went, the dead stopped rising. Not sealed, not contained, freed. The Edo Tensei binding, the chakra construct that held souls and reanimated bodies, was at its core an energy structure. And energy structures that entered the radius of the power of destruction did not survive the experience. He walked through the revived army of the second Tsuchikage, and every body within 20 meters simply released. The binding dissolving, the ash and dust falling away, the souls sighing out of their forced prisons and returning to wherever the dead go when the living stop dragging them back. He walked through a line of reanimated swordsmen of the Mist and Zabuza. Standing behind him, following in his wake like a shadow with a new blade, watched his former colleagues' bodies crumble and their faces show peace for the half-second before they disappeared. He walked through Kabuto's entire eastern front in a single afternoon. The reports reached Alliance Command. Shikaku Nara, the Joint Forces strategist, possibly the most intelligent man in 5 nations, read the field updates and set down his pen. "Redirect all Eastern forces to the Southern Front," he said. "Sir, the Eastern Front still has hundreds of... The Eastern Front has Naruto Uzumaki." Shikaku's voice was flat. "It does not need anyone else. The White Zetsu Army. 100,000 plant clone soldiers, each one capable of mimicking a shinobi's appearance and chakra signature. They poured from the earth like a plague, endless, shapeless, designed to overwhelm through sheer numbers. Naruto stood on a ridgeline above the northern approach. Below him, 20,000 Zetsu clones surged toward the Alliance's medical encampment. He raised both hands. Crimson Ruin, Annihilation Sphere. The dome expanded. Not the small personal dome from the Forest of Death years ago. This one grew and kept growing. A hemisphere of absolute crimson erasure sweeping outward from its body in every direction, expanding across the landscape like the world's most beautiful tide. It passed over the ground below the ridgeline, and every Zetsu clone it touched stopped. Not simultaneously, in a wave, front to back, the expanding edge of the dome reaching them in sequence, from 20,000 to 15,000 to 10,000 to 5,000 to 0 in 4 seconds. The dome faded. Naruto lowered his hands. Below the ridgeline, there was nothing. Bare earth, clean soil, no bodies, no remains. No evidence that 100 seconds ago, 20,000 enemies had been charging toward their targets. Just empty ground and the specific, profound silence that follows the removal of something enormous. On a communication line 3 kilometers away, a sensor ninja's voice came through flat and disbelieving. "Northern approach is clear. All hostiles eliminated. Confirmed? There is literally nothing there, sir. The ground is clean." Shikaku closed his eyes. Of course it is. Then Madara arrived, the real Madara. Not a memory, not a puppet. Madara Uchiha, the man, the myth, right, the worst nightmare the shinobi world had produced in a millennium. Rising from Kabuto's Edo Tensei with full power, the Rinnegan in his stolen eyes, and a smile that said he had been waiting for a fight worth having since the day he died. He hit the central front like a meteor. The perfect Susanoo formed around him, an armored colossus of purple chakra the size of a mountain, wielding a blade that split the earth with each swing. He cut through 3 Alliance divisions in 10 minutes. Dust clouds rose to the stratosphere. The ground cracked in patterns visible from space. He was magnificent. He was catastrophic. He was the pinnacle of human achievement in the art of war, elevated beyond death itself, and against anyone else in this world, anyone, he would have been unstoppable. The Susanoo turned. The purple giant's eyes, Madara's eyes, ancient and joyful with the thrill of battle, swept across the devastation it had wrought and found a red star in the sky. Naruto floated above the battlefield in his base form, arms crossed, coat motionless despite the updrafts from the fires below. His red hair, longer now, falling past his shoulders, hung still around his face. He looked down at the perfect Susanoo with the expression of someone evaluating a particularly ambitious piece of architecture. "Madara Uchiha," Naruto said. His voice carried, not shouting, just projecting with the ease of someone whose presence makes the air conduct his words. "I've read about you." Inside the Susanoo, Madara tilted his head. His grin was the grin of a man who had conquered nations and found them boring. "And I have heard about you, boy. The Crimson Satan." He swept his Susanoo blade through the air. The shockwave flattened a forest. "They say you erase things. They say it because it's true. Then erase this." Madara's hands formed seals. Even inside the Susanoo, his movements were fluid. Impossible. "Chibaku Tensei!" He pointed skyward. A black sphere launched from his palm, a gravity core, a seed of planetary creation. It rose above the battlefield and began to pull. The earth cracked. Boulders the size of buildings ripped free from the ground and flew upward. Trees, water, soil, everything in a kilometer radius tore itself free and compacted around the black sphere, building, growing, forming a planetoid in the sky, an artificial moon, thousands of tons of compressed earth and stone, blotting out the sun, casting the battlefield in shadow. Madara's ultimate gravitational technique, The same power the Sage of Six Paths used to seal the 10 tails in the moon itself. Madara gestured. The planetoid descended, toward the ground, toward the Alliance forces, toward everything and everyone below. Naruto looked up at it. A sphere of rock the size of a village, falling toward the world like the fist of an angry god. He raised one hand. Crimson ruin. A single beam of crimson light, thin as a laser, bright as a dying sun, lands from his palm upward into the descending planetoid. Contact. From the point where the beam touched, the rock began ceasing to exist. Outward in every direction, expanding in a sphere of absence within the sphere of stone. 1,000-ton sections of compressed earth simply not being there anymore. Holes appearing in the mass like bites from an invisible mouth, growing, connecting them until the entire Chibaku Tensei looked less like a planetoid and more like a donut, and then less like a donut and more like scattered pebbles, and then less like pebbles and more like nothing at all. 3 seconds. A technique that recreated the Sage's ultimate seal? Gone. Madara's grin did not falter. If anything, it widened. Magnificent. Finally, an opponent worth my attention. His hands moved again. Limbo border jail. Invisible shadows. Limbo clones existing in a dimension adjacent to the physical one, imperceptible to any eye except the Rinnegan. 4 of them rushing at Naruto from 4 directions, intangible, invisible, unblockable by any means the shinobi world possessed. They entered Naruto's radius. They ceased to exist. He hadn't moved, hadn't acknowledged them. The Limbo clones, interdimensional constructs designed to be untouchable by anything in the physical plane, dissolved the instant they crossed into the space where the power of destruction existed as ambient fact. Madara's eyes widened. For the first time, not in fear, in wonder. The wonder of a man who has spent an eternity believing he has no equals and is watching that belief die in real time. What are you? Madara breathed. Naruto descended. From the sky toward the Susanoo, toward the massive purple titan, 100 meters of pure chakra construct, armed and armored and burning with the power of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. He pressed one palm against the Susanoo's chest. The power of destruction spread from the point of contact. Not a beam, a propagation. Like frost on glass, but in reverse. The purple chakra of the Susanoo dissolved outward from his palm. Ribcage to arms, arms to head, chest to legs. The armor went, the blade went, the form went. Layer by layer, piece by piece, the mightiest defensive technique in Uchiha history coming apart like tissue paper in a river. Madara fell. The Susanoo was gone. He dropped from where he'd stood inside it. Armored, tall. His face showing something that was not fear, but was adjacent to it. Something a person feels when they realize the category they put themselves in was smaller than they thought. He landed on the broken earth, looked up at Naruto, who descended in front of him with the same unhurried grace he brought to everything. The Rinnegan. Madara's voice had changed. The bravado was muted. What replaced it was the honest curiosity of someone who has studied power their entire existence and is encountering something outside their scholarship. The Mangekyo, the Sage's techniques, all irrelevant against you. Yes. Then what is your power? It's not chakra. It's not senjutsu. It's not anything this world. It's not from this world, Naruto said. And neither am I. He raised his hand. Crimson light flickered at his palm, and the Edo Tensei binding that held Madara's soul in its reanimated body began to dissolve. Not from outside, from within. The construct that kept him here, that chained him to a body in a battle he had not chosen, erasing itself at Naruto's command. Madara felt it. The release beginning. His body starting to crumble. He looked at Naruto, and something unexpected crossed the face of the most feared man in shinobi history. Respect. In my lifetime, Madara said, his body dissolving from the feet up, I believed Hashirama was the only one who could face me as an equal. I was wrong. His face was the last to go. Those Rinnegan eyes, fixed on Naruto, carrying not hatred but the specific peace of someone who finally encountered something bigger than their own legend. Make something worthwhile of this world, boy. It clearly belongs to you. He was gone. Dust and silence in a cleared battlefield. 10,000 Alliance soldiers had watched. They stood in silence so complete that the sound of the wind was an intrusion. Then, from somewhere in the ranks, a single voice, quiet, awed, human. He really is a god. The whisper spread. It would not stop spreading. Obito stood at the center of the world's ruin. The 10 tails, the primordial beast, the combined form of all 9 tailed beasts, roared behind him. Its form was grotesque and enormous, a mountain of flesh and chakra that warped the weather patterns above it, its 10 tails sweeping the landscape flat with each idle movement. Obito had shed the mask. His face was visible, the scarred half, the Sharingan eye, the exhausted expression of a man who had spent 20 years building toward this moment and refused to stop now regardless of what stood in front of him. Naruto. His voice carried across the devastated landscape. The 10 tails thrashed behind him. You've come to stop me. I've come to end this. Naruto stood 100 meters away. His team, Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, spread behind him. The alliance forces at their backs. The Tsukuyomi won't happen, Obito. You don't know what I've lost. Obito's voice cracked. The composure he'd maintained for 2 decades breaking against the weight of what was finally happening. You don't know what this world took from me. Rin is gone because this reality is broken, and the only way to fix it is to trap everyone alive in a lie. Naruto's voice did not rise. An illusion where nothing is real and nothing grows and nothing ever hurts because nothing is actually happening. That's not peace. That's a coffin with nice wallpaper. It would bring her back. It would bring back nothing. A dream of her, a shadow of her, not her. And somewhere in whatever exists after this life, the real Rin would watch you trap the world in a prison in her name, and she would weep. Obito flinched. His hand went to his chest. His Sharingan spun. You knew her, Naruto said. You loved her. And the version of her that lives in your memory, the version that was kind and brave and believed in the world, that version would be horrified by what you're doing. Stop talking! Obito's hand slammed down. The 10 tails responded. A tail sweeping forward via hundreds of meters of primordial flesh aimed at Naruto with the force to split continents. Naruto did not dodge. He changed. The true form. His body blazed. Crimson light erupted from every surface. Not fire, not chakra, not anything this world had produced in 10,000 years of history. His physical shape dissolved into pure energy. The silhouette remaining, humanoid, recognizable, but the substance transforming into concentrated, absolute, undeniable destruction given form. He burned against the sky like a second sun. Red where the sun was gold, final where the sun was warm. The 10 tails' tail hit him. It stopped existing. From the point of contact outward, spreading through the appendage like a flame through a fuse. Flesh ceasing, chakra ceasing. The primordial matter that composed the most ancient entity in the world's history, dissolving into nothing at the speed of intention. The tail was there, and then it was half-length, and then it was gone entirely, and the stump was shrinking and the beast was screaming. A sound that existed below human hearing, felt in the chest, in the teeth, in the marrow, as something that predated its existence touched it and said no more. Naruto, the true form, the crimson silhouette, the walking end of all things, rose into the air. He reached the 10 tails. He placed one burning hand against its body. Power of destruction, total erasure. The beast came apart, not quickly, at its own pace. The crimson annihilation spread from the handprint outward like the tide coming in. Undeniable, irreversible. The 10 tails thrashed, it screamed. It deployed every tail, every technique, every fragment of its primordial will against the red light, eating it alive. Nothing worked. Nothing could work. The power of destruction did not negotiate with what it touched. It did not slow when resistance was offered. It simply continued, at its own pace, inevitable as sunrise, until there was nothing left to continue through. The Alliance watched. 80,000 shinobi, 5 Kage, every living ninja in the world, gathered on one battlefield, watching a crimson god unmake the oldest entity in their history with one hand in absolute certainty. The sky cleared as the beast dissolved. The weather patterns it had warped resolved. Clouds dispersed. The sun, the real sun, broke through for the first time in hours and fell on a landscape that was scarred and broken but alive. The 10 tails was gone. Nothing remained of it. No body, no chakra, no residue. Just the space it had occupied, empty and clean, as if it had been a dream the world was waking from. Naruto's true form receded. The crimson light pulled inward. He stood, human again, red-haired and blue-eyed and 16 years old, on the ground where the beast had been. His coat was gone. His shirt was torn. His face was the same. Obito fell to his knees, not from an attack, from the complete, total, bone-level understanding that everything he'd built for 20 years had just evaporated in front of him, and there was nothing in any dimension, any plan, any contingency that could put it back. "It's over," Naruto said, walking toward him, not as a conqueror, as someone who has been patient for a very long time and is finally allowed to stop. "Obito, it's over." Obito Sharingan stared. His mouth opened, closed, then he laughed. Small, broken. The laugh of a man holding the pieces of 20 years of grief-fueled insanity and realizing they no longer fit together. "She would have hated me," Obito whispered. "Wouldn't she?" "She would have been sad for you," Naruto corrected. He crouched in front of the man, eye level, "and then she would have told you to stop being an idiot and go help your friends." Obito looked at Naruto, then past him, to where Kakashi stood, 30 meters back, his face wet, his hands shaking, his single Sharingan eye locked on the man who had been his best friend and his greatest failure. "Kakashi," Obito said. His voice cracked on the name. Kakashi was there in 3 steps, on his knees beside Obito. 2 men who had been teenagers together, who had lost the same person, who had spent 20 years on opposite sides of a grief neither of them processed correctly. Naruto stood. He stepped back. He gave them the moment. And then the sky broke. White, absolute white, bleeding in from the edges of the world like ink spilled across a page. The air temperature dropped to nothing. The ground trembled. Reality itself, the specific physical reality of this dimension, shuddered the way a structure shudders when something it was built to contain is no longer contained. From the rift in the white sky, she descended. Kaguya Otsutsuki. She was not human. She was not pretending to be human. She was a presence. Ancient, vast, incomprehensible, that wore a human shape the way an ocean might wear a cup. White skin, white hair. 2 horns crowning a forehead that held a third eye. Red, pupil vertical, the Rinne Sharingan blazing with a light that made the Rinnegan look like a candle beside a lighthouse. She floated downward. Her robes, white, layered, impossibly clean, did not move with her. The world moved around her instead. Every shinobi on the battlefield felt it. Not killing intent. Something worse. The absolute primal, cellular awareness that the thing descending from the sky was not their enemy. It was their origin, the source of every power they possessed coming home to collect. "My chakra," Kaguya said. Her voice was not one voice. It was many, layered, harmonic, the sound of something that spoke and expected the world to reshape itself around the words. All of it, given to these creatures, squandered, diluted. I gave them power and they turned it to war. Her third eye swept the battlefield. 80,000 shinobi. She looked at them the way a gardener looks at weeds that have overgrown their beds. "I will take it back." Her hand rose. Expansive truth seeker orb. Reality folded. The dimension shifted. The ground beneath the army tilted and the sky above them peeled. And suddenly they were somewhere else. A dimension of ice, of lava, of acid, of vacuum. Kaguya's personal worlds, her pocket universes, ready to swallow them whole. Naruto's presence slammed down like a hammer. The dimensional shift stopped, incomplete. Halfway between worlds, the landscape stuttered, frozen between 2 realities, unable to complete its transition because something at its center was denying it the authority to finish. Kaguya's eyes moved to Naruto. She stared. For the first time since she had manifested, for the first time, perhaps in thousands of years, her expression changed. The imperious certainty wavered. Her third eye focused, its pupil contracted. "You," she said, and her voice, the layered many-voice sound of an ancient deity, cracked on the word. "What are you?" Naruto stood where the army's center had been. His body was glowing, faintly, the crimson energy seeping from his pores without effort, without activation, simply existing because he was allowing it to exist at its natural state instead of suppressing it. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki," he said. "And you're standing in my world." "No." Kaguya descended lower. Her eyes, all 3, locked onto him with an intensity that transcended mere attention. "No, I can see you. What you are underneath. That soul, it does not belong to this plane. The energy you carry, it predates chakra. It predates the God tree. It predates me." Yes, her expression shifted. Not anger. Something that might have been fear in a creature capable of feeling it. "How did something like you come to exist in my world?" "Your world?" Naruto tilted his head. "This was never yours. You came here. You took root. You handed out gifts. and then got upset when the recipients didn't use them the way you intended. But this world existed before you, and it will exist after you. And the things that live in it, the people you're calling creatures, the lives you're calling squandered, they matter. Every single one of them matters, to me. Kaguya's hands moved. The dimension lurched. She was trying again, pulling the fabric of space, attempting to drag everything into a reality she controlled. Ice, lava, vacuum. Naruto's aura expanded. Crimson light. Not a dome, not a wave. An atmosphere. A new ambient condition of reality centered on him, spreading outward, and wherever it spread, the dimensional manipulation failed. Kaguya's portals could not open. Her reality shifts could not complete. The space that Naruto's presence occupied became fixed, locked into the physical world, immune to alteration, because the power of destruction recognized dimensional manipulation for what it was, an energy construct, an act of will imposed on space, and treated it like everything else. It ceased. Kaguya's face twisted. Impossible. I've been told that word doesn't apply to me. Naruto rose, into the air, toward her, his crimson aura trailing behind him like a comet's tail. This ends now, Kaguya. You don't get to unmake the world because it stopped belonging to you. She threw everything. Bone spears, the all-killing ash bone, the technique that erased what it pierced from existence. 6 of them launched from her palms at the speed of thought, each one carrying the conceptual weight of dissolution itself. They entered his aura. They dissolved, erased by something that erased on a deeper level than their own erasure could reach. Kaguya's ultimate killing technique, the bones that could undo anything, undone by something more final than themselves. Her third eye blazed. The Rinne's Sharingan activated its ultimate technique, Infinite Tsukuyomi's precursor, a wave of light designed to capture every living being in an illusion that lasted forever. The light reached Naruto, broke against him like water against a cliff, not reflected, not resisted, simply ceased. The Genjutsu, the light, the concept of illusion itself, all of it encountering the power of destruction and being reminded that it was, at its fundamental level, an energy construct. And energy constructs did not survive contact with what Naruto was. Kaguya was motionless in the air. Her techniques, all of them, the full breadth of what the Otsutsuki clan's progenitor could bring to bear, exhausted against a single person. She looked at Naruto. He was 10 meters from her now, close enough that the crimson light from his body was casting red shadows across her white robes. "What do you want?" she asked. Her voice was reduced to a single layer now, not the many-voiced echo of a goddess, but the single, strained voice of a being confronting something it cannot overcome. "For you to leave," Naruto said. "This world is not yours. These people are not yours. The chakra you gave them became theirs the moment they received it. That's how gifts work. You don't get to reclaim a gift just because you don't like what the recipient did with it. I am their mother. A mother does not enslave her children." Naruto raised his hand. The power of destruction gathered. Not a beam, not a sphere. A warmth. A crimson glow that pulsed with something that was both annihilating and, paradoxically, offering. "I'm giving you a choice. Leave. Go back to wherever your kind comes from. Live somewhere that isn't here. Or stay, and I will erase you so completely that even the concept of your existence will not persist in this dimension." Kaguya stared at his hand, the crimson light reflecting in her Rinne's Sharingan. "You would destroy a god," she said. "You're not a god." His voice was gentle. "You're a powerful being who confused power with divinity. I've been both, Kaguya. I know the difference." Something in her expression collapsed. The rigidity, the divine certainty that she was owed this world's submission, cracked. Behind it was something ancient and exhausted, and perhaps for the first time in a millennium, unsure. She looked down at the battlefield, at the 80,000 humans staring up at the confrontation in the sky, at the world she had tried to reclaim and found defended by something she could not overcome. "They will destroy themselves," she said, "without me, without control. They will use the power I gave them to burn everything." Maybe, Naruto lowered his hand, the power of destruction dimmed, not gone but resting. Or maybe they'll learn, with time, with patience, with someone strong enough to guarantee they have the space to grow into something better. Kaguya looked at him one last time. The third eye closed. The Rinne's Sharingan went dark. Her horns, the symbols of her divine authority, seemed smaller in the light of the crimson glow that still pulsed gently from the boy in front of her. "If they fail," she said, "I will return." "If they fail," Naruto replied, "I'll still be here." She rose. The rift in the sky, white, vast, interdimensional, opened above her. She ascended into it without looking back, without ceremony, without the dramatic flair of someone making an exit. She simply left. The rift closed. The sky returned, blue, clear, normal. The sun hung where it had always hung. The air tasted like air again. The dimensional instability that had been pressing against reality since her arrival was like a headache fading. On the ground below, 80,000 shinobi stared at the sky where a god had been, and the boy who remained in her place, floating against the blue with his red hair stirring gently in the wind. No one spoke. No one moved. The collective processing of what they had just witnessed was going to take days, possibly years. Naruto descended, slowly, gently. His feet touched the ground, and the moment they did, the crimson aura faded entirely. He stood on the battlefield, just a boy, just a person, 16 and red-haired and tired in a way that wasn't physical. Sasuke was beside him in seconds. Sakura 2 seconds after that. Kakashi, still shaken, still carrying the weight of Obito's truth, close behind. "Is she gone?" Sakura asked. Her voice was hoarse. "Gone." Naruto looked at the sky, at the empty, normal, wonderfully ordinary sky. "It's over." The war? He looked at the landscape around them, the Alliance army, the injured, the living, the quiet that had settled over everything like snow. All of it. Sasuke put his hand on Naruto's shoulder, didn't speak, didn't need to. The weight of that hand, the simple physical reality of his brother in all but blood standing beside him, alive and whole, and choosing to be here, said everything a voice couldn't. The war ended. Not with a celebration. Those came later, with silence. The specific silence that follows the last gunshot of the last battle, when the world remembers what peace sounds like and has to relearn how to breathe without flinching. The days that followed were triage. The injured healed. The dead counted. The Alliance's command structure, designed for war, began the slow, painful transformation into something designed for peace. And in a tent at the edge of the medical encampment, after the last debriefing of the longest day any of them had ever lived, Naruto sat alone with his head back against the canvas wall and his eyes closed. A presence entered the tent. Heavy, ancient, familiar, not physically present, not in this tent, not in any external space, present inside. At the place where the seal sat, where the cage had been, where a fox the size of a mountain had spent 16 years refusing to make a sound. For the first time since Naruto had been alive, Kurama spoke. "You could have unmade me at any time." The voice was not what people imagined when they thought of the Nine Tails. It was deep, yes. It rumbled, yes. But beneath the depth was something old and tired and right now, very carefully honest. Naruto did not open his eyes. Yes, from the first day, the moment your soul entered this body, you could have reached into this cage and erased me like you erased everything else. Yes. Why didn't you? Naruto was silent for a moment. Inside the seal space, the sewer-like corridor that represented their shared existence, something shifted. The cage bars were there, but they felt different. Less like a prison, more like a fence between neighbors who had never introduced themselves. "Because you didn't deserve it," Naruto said. "You were sealed against your will, used as a weapon against your will, caged in a succession of humans who feared you or hated you or both. None of that was your choice. Erasing you for someone else's decision would have made me no better than the people who sealed you in the first place." Kurama was silent for a long time. The massive form, fox-shaped, nine-tailed, larger than buildings, shifted in its cage. One enormous red eye caught the dim light of the seal space. "I was afraid of you," Kurama said. "From the first moment your soul settled into this body, and I felt what you were, what you carried. I was afraid. I have never been afraid of anything in my existence. Not Madara, not Hashirama, not the sage himself. But you, what you are does not belong in this world. And every day of your life, I have been sitting in this cage, knowing that if you ever turned your attention inward, even for a second, even by accident, I would stop existing. And yet you're here, and yet I'm here." Naruto opened his eyes. In the seal space, he stood in front of the cage for the first time, not as a child, not as a jailer, as a person. His red hair fell around his shoulders. His blue eyes met Kurama's red ones across the barrier. "I'm going to open this cage," Naruto said. "Not because you asked, not because I need your power, because 16 years is long enough to be someone's prisoner for a crime you didn't commit." Kurama stared, the massive head tilted. 9 tails stirred. "You are either the bravest soul I have ever encountered," Kurama said, "or the most insane." "Probably both." The cage opened. Kurama did not rush out, did not burst free. The massive fox stood at the open door of its own prison and simply existed in open space, without chains, without walls, without the constant grinding awareness of captivity pressing on every thought. It took a breath, the first free breath in 16 years. "Thank you," Kurama said, and the ancient, prideful, terrifying 9-tailed fox said those words with a weight that had nothing to do with power and everything to do with the specific, fragile dignity of a being that had been granted something it never expected to receive. "You're welcome," Naruto smiled. "Now, do you want to actually have a conversation?" 16 years of silence must have been boring. Kurama huffed. The sound was amused, genuinely amused, from a being that had not been amused in longer than most civilizations had existed. "Insufferably kind," Kurama muttered. "I share a body with something that could erase reality itself, and it's insufferably kind. Get used to it." Kurama lay down, its tail spread behind it like a fan. Its massive head rested on its paws, and for the first time in either of their lives, they simply existed together, not as prisoner and warden, not as weapon and container, but as two beings sharing a space and choosing freely to be present with each other. It was enough. The world rebuilt. Not quickly, worlds never do, but with the specific momentum of people who have seen the worst and decided collectively to build toward the best. The alliance did not dissolve after the war. It evolved. 5 nations that had spent generations fighting each other discovered, in the forge of shared catastrophe, that cooperation was not a weakness, but a structure. Trade routes opened. Borders softened. Communication lines that had been built for wartime intelligence became networks for peacetime exchange. Konoha stood at the center of it. Not by conquest, not by force, by gravity. The same gravity that had always characterized its most significant citizen. The village rebuilt itself around the scars of Pain's invasion and the war's aftermath. New buildings rose where old ones had fallen. Streets were relayed. The Hokage monument received attention. Repairs to the 4 existing faces, and a space cleared beside them that everyone knew, without anyone saying it, was waiting. Naruto was 17. He stood on the monument on a Tuesday evening, not sitting, standing, at the edge of the cliff face that bore his father's likeness. The sunset poured gold and crimson across the village below. Rooftops, trees, the Hokage Tower, rebuilt and gleaming. The academy where children who would never know the horrors of the war were learning to mold chakra for the first time. Footsteps behind him. Familiar. Sasuke stood beside him, hands in pockets. Expression the same, but the edges were different now. Softer. Not in a way that reduced him, but in the way that a blade is softer when it's been properly tempered instead of just hardened. "Council wants to make it official," Sasuke said. "I know." "You're going to say yes?" Eventually. Naruto looked at the village, his village, the place that had hated him and feared him, and then slowly, impossibly, learned to trust him. Not yet. There's still work to do first. There's always work. That's what makes it worthwhile. They stood together. 2 boys who had been on opposite sides of everything, power, pain, philosophy, and had arrived at the same place anyway. The same cliff, the same sunset, the same village spread below them like a promise that had kept itself. "Itachi would have liked this," Sasuke said. His voice did not crack. It carried the words evenly, as a person carries something precious that has been held long enough to feel like part of their body. He would. He would have said something irritatingly wise about it. Probably. Naruto smiled. And then he would have poked your forehead. Sasuke's mouth twitched. Not a smile. Almost a smile. The ghost of what smiling felt like when it came without pain attached. "Thank you," Sasuke said. "For what?" "For not letting me destroy myself." Sasuke looked at the village. "For being immovable when I needed something to crash against. for standing next to me in that building and saying nothing for long enough that the silence put me back together. Naruto looked at his friend, his brother, the person who had tested him more than any enemy ever had, not with power, but with the challenge of holding someone you care about accountable without pushing them away. That's what family does, Naruto said. Sasuke was silent for a moment. Then, yeah, I guess it is. They watched the sun go down. The sky burned orange, then purple, then the first stars appeared. They didn't leave until the village lights came on below them. Hundreds of windows, hundreds of families, hundreds of lives continuing in the peace that two boys on a clifftop had bled for. 3 days later, Hinata found him at Ichiraku. She did not stutter. She did not blush. Well, she blushed a little, but it was the blush of someone who has feelings and owns them, rather than someone who is overwhelmed by them. She sat on the stool beside him. She ordered miso. She ate in companionable silence for 4 minutes. Then she said, "I love you. I have loved you since we were 12, and you told Neji that fate was a lie. I love you because you see people, really see them, and you choose them. You chose me when no one else did. You saw something worth choosing when my own father couldn't." Naruto set down his chopsticks. Hinata looked at him. Her pale eyes, lavender, clear, braver than anyone had ever credited them for being, held his without wavering. "I'm not asking you to say it back," she continued. "I'm not asking you for anything. I just needed you to know. Because you've spent your whole life being seen as something, a monster, a weapon, a legend, and I wanted to be someone who told you what you are to me. To one person. Not the Crimson Satan. Not the power. You, the boy who bought me ramen when I was 13 and told me to sit and treated me like I mattered." Naruto looked at her, at this woman, because she was a woman now, wasn't she? Not the trembling girl from the academy, but someone who had fought in a war and stood beside him through everything and chosen, every single day, to keep choosing him. Her hair was longer, her posture was straighter, but her eyes were the same, warm and honest and filled with a light that he had noticed the very first time she sat on that stool years ago. "Hinata," he said, "yes, you have always mattered." He reached across the counter space between them and took her hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm, certain, holding without crushing. "From the first day you sat here, from the first time I saw you stand up when everything in your life told you to stay down, you mattered to me. You still matter to me, and I am sorry, genuinely sorry, that it took me this long to say it out loud." Hinata's eyes glistened. Her hand tightened in his. "That's enough," she said. "That's more than enough." He brought her hand up, pressed his lips to her knuckles, briefly, gently, with the specific tenderness he reserved for the people he held closest. "Stay," he said. "Eat with me. Always." They ate. Tochi pretended not to cry into the noodle pot. Ayame did not pretend and cried openly and beautifully and told them they were getting free ramen for the rest of their lives. Hinata laughed, full and real and unguarded, and the sound of it settled something in Naruto's chest that he hadn't realized needed settling. She was his, not in the way of possession, in the way of someone who had chosen him freely and whom he chose freely back. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything. The diplomatic delegations arrived 4 months after the war's end, every nation sending representatives, every Kaji corresponding through official channels, the architecture of peace being constructed in meeting rooms and over treaty tables and in the specific, exhausting language of international cooperation. Kirigakure sent its Mizukage personally. Maid Terumi arrived in Konoha on a spring morning. Her delegation was small, 3 guards, an aide, no ceremony. She wore traveling clothes instead of robes. Her auburn hair was tied back. Her single visible eye scanned the rebuilt village with the professional appreciation of someone who has done their own rebuilding and knows what it costs. She found Naruto at the Hokage Tower. He was in a meeting, or rather, he was observing a meeting, standing behind Tsunade's chair the way he always did at these things, his presence making the proceedings move faster and the participants more honest. The meeting ended. The room cleared. Tsunade left with a knowing look that she did not explain. And then it was just them. Mei leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, one eyebrow raised. "You haven't written," she said. "I've been busy ending wars." "I noticed. The entire continent noticed." She pushed off the doorframe. walked into the room, stopped on the other side of the table from him. "You look exhausted." "I'm not." "You should be. You fought a god 2 months ago." "She wasn't a god." "She was close enough that the distinction is academic." May tilted her head, her visible eye, green, sharp, carrying warmth in a way that she would not acknowledge if asked, studied him. "Are you all right?" The question landed differently than most questions landed on Naruto. Not the surface question, "Are you physically intact?" The deeper one, the real one. Are you the person, the soul, the being carrying the weight of being what you are? Are you all right? He looked at her, this woman who had rebuilt a village from its bloodiest era, who had stood at the edge of a war and traveled 12 hours to check on him, who challenged him in ways that no one else did, not with power, because nothing challenged his power, but with the refusal to be awed into silence, with the insistence on treating him as a person who could have bad days and quiet moments and needs that weren't met by being untouchable. "I'm better now," he said. May's expression softened, just slightly, just enough. "That was smooth," she said. "I hate how smooth you are." "You don't." "I genuinely might." She circled the table, slowly, each step bringing her closer, each step a decision she was making with full awareness of what it meant. "You're 16. Yes. I'm 31. Yes. People will talk. People always talk. It's the least interesting thing they do." She was in front of him now, close. The space between them personal, intimate, the kind of distance that means something has been decided. "I don't do soft things," she said. Her voice was lower. "I'm not the kind of woman who—" "You traveled 12 hours during an invasion because you heard I might be in danger." Naruto met her eye. "You've written 3 letters in 4 months and pretended each one was strictly diplomatic, when the last paragraph of every single one was not diplomatic at all." Her cheeks colored, faintly, the Mizukage, the woman who dissolved armor with her bloodline, coloring. "You read those too closely," she said. "I read everything you send me too closely, and then I read it again." He raised his hand, paused, waited. An offer, not a presumption. She took it, her fingers curled around his. Her grip was strong. Of course it was strong. She had been strong her entire life, and she would not stop being strong for anyone. "This is going to be complicated," she said. "Most things worth having are." That's dangerously close to wisdom for someone your age. "I'm older than I look." "That," May said, and something in her voice shifted, the walls coming down, not all at once but enough. Enough for this moment. Enough for the beginning of something that would grow into its own shape, is the first genuinely reassuring thing you've said. She did not kiss him. He did not kiss her. What happened instead was smaller and more honest than that. She leaned forward, rested her forehead against his shoulder, and exhaled. A long, slow breath. The release of tension she had been carrying since the summit, since the invasion, since the first time she saw him and felt, for the first time, what it was like to be in a room with someone who exceeded her. Naruto's free hand came up, rested on the back of her head, held, not pulling, just present, just warm. "Stay for dinner," he said. "I'm staying for a week." Her voice was muffled against his shoulder. "Diplomatic necessity, of course. Don't smile at me like that. You can't see my face. I can feel it." He was, in fact, smiling. The particular smile, warm, genuine, and slightly victorious, that he wore when something he wanted came to him willingly. They stood like that for a while, the spring light coming through the office windows, the rebuilt village alive below them, the future, enormous, uncertain, full of work and negotiation, and the slow, patient labor of turning a world that had known nothing but war into something that might, with time and persistence, know peace, stretching out ahead of them like a road they hadn't walked yet but could see clearly from where they stood. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was a beginning. The weeks became months. The months built on each other like layers of stone. The alliance held. The peace, fragile at first, the way all new things are fragile, strengthened. Trade expanded. Information flowed. The tailed beasts, freed, whole, choosing their own paths for the first time in a millennium, dispersed across the world. Some stayed near their former villages. Some vanished into the wilderness. All of them carried, in whatever consciousness they possessed, the awareness of what Naruto Uzumaki was, and the specific, comfortable knowledge that the world they inhabited now had a guarantor who could not be broken. Naruto turned 17, then 18. The title the village wanted to give him waited, not impatiently, but inevitably. The way a river doesn't impatiently reach the sea, Tsunade retired on a morning that felt ordinary. She left the hat on the desk, left a note that said, "About damn time." The ceremony was simple. Not because Naruto wanted simplicity, he didn't mind pageantry, but because the village had learned something about him over the years. He did not need performance to be acknowledged. His presence was the acknowledgement. He stood on the balcony of the Hokage tower with the hat in his hands. Below, the village spread in every direction, rebuilt, alive, carrying forward. His people, all of them. The ones who had hated him, and the ones who had loved him, and the ones who had been afraid, and the ones who had believed. All of them his. He put on the hat. The village cheered, not the polite applause of obligation. The full-throated, bone-shaking roar of 30,000 people who had spent a decade watching a legend grow and were finally allowed to celebrate what they'd been witnessing. On the balcony beside him, because he would not do this alone, would never do anything alone, his people stood. Sasuke, arms crossed, the faintest smirk on his face. Sakura, crying again, punching Sasuke for not crying. Kakashi, reading his book, his visible eyes suspiciously bright above the pages. Hinata, her hands clasped in front of her chest, her smile so radiant it rivaled the sun that caught Naruto's hair. Zabuza, leaning against the wall, his new blade at his back, looking at the crowd below with the expression of someone who still couldn't believe he'd ended up here and had stopped questioning it. Haku, beside him, smiling that ice-clear smile. And in the crowd below, visible from the balcony because she was taller than most of the people around her and because her auburn hair caught light in a way that was impossible to miss. Mei Terumi, in civilian clothes, clapping with everyone else, her single visible eye locked on the figure on the balcony with an expression she had long since stopped pretending wasn't what it was. Naruto looked out at all of it. His village, his world, the thing he had built, one person, one choice, one moment of warmth extended towards someone who expected none. From a 4-year-old erasing a bottle to a teenager erasing a goddess. From a boy sitting alone at a ramen counter to a man standing above a city with every person he loved within reach, he removed the hat, held it in one hand. His red hair crimson, alive, catching the afternoon sun and holding it like fire holds warmth, fell around his face. He smiled. That smile, the one that started everything, warm, genuine. The smile of someone who had everything to give and gave it without reservation. "Thank you," he said. His voice carried, not amplified, at just present, the way it always was. "For trusting me, for growing with me, for giving me the chance to earn what you're giving me today." He looked across the crowd, at the old faces and the new ones, at the children who knew him only as a protector, at the adults who remembered him as a pariah. "I'm going to keep earning it, every day, for as long as you'll have me." The cheering doubled. He let it wash over him, let the sound and the warmth and the weight of it settle into his bones. This was real. This was his. Not because he'd taken it, because he'd been patient enough to let it come. That evening, after the ceremonies and the celebrations and the handshakes and the congratulations, Naruto stood alone on the Hokage monument, on his own face. The stone was fresh, carved that morning by the village's best sculptors, who had been working on it in secret for months. His likeness next to his father's. Two faces looking out over the village they had both given everything for. One in death, one in life. The sun was setting. The sky burned orange and gold, and at its edges, the faintest hint of crimson. His red hair moved in the evening breeze. Below him, the village was going about its evening. Lights coming on in windows, laughter from restaurants, the distant sound of children playing past their bedtime, because tonight was special, and no parent had the heart to enforce the rules. He breathed in. The air tasted like home, like the specific mixture of trees and stone and cooking food and human life that meant this place and no other. Somewhere below, Sasuke was walking toward the Uchiha district. Restored now. Not a graveyard, but a neighborhood. Small and growing and carrying its history without being crushed by it. Somewhere, Sakura was in the hospital, finishing a shift she could have delegated, but chose to work because healing was not something she did for duty. Somewhere, Kakashi was reading on his apartment roof, his eyes smiling above his mask. Somewhere, Hinata was watering flowers in a garden she'd planted the spring before, her pale eyes reflecting the last light. Somewhere, in a village across the water, May was pouring herself a glass of wine and reading the letter he'd sent yesterday. The one that ended with a line that made her smile into her glass and close her eye and press the paper to her chest in a gesture she would deny making with her dying breath. All of them safe, all of them alive, all of them building their own futures in the peace he had made possible, and they had made worth protecting. Naruto sat on the edge of the monument. His legs dangled over the carved stone of his own face. The village stretched below him like a living painting. Beautiful, imperfect, full of people who were trying. It was not the kingdom he remembered from another life. It was not the underworld. It was not a peerage in the formal sense, bound by chess pieces and demonic hierarchy. It was something messier and warmer and more fragile and, because of that fragility, more precious. It was his. He had crossed lifetimes to find it, had carried power enough to unmake reality and instead used it to make something real. Had walked through hatred and war and loss and the crushing weight of being something the world had never seen, and had arrived here, on this cliff, in this sunset, with this peace spreading out below him like a promise he would spend the rest of his life keeping. The last light of the sun touched the horizon. The crimson edges of the sky held for one final, brilliant moment. The same shade as his hair, the same shade as his power, the same shade as the name they'd given him that he'd made his own. The crimson Satan of the leaf. He smiled. Somewhere in the village, a child laughed. The sound rose through the evening air, pure, unafraid, full of the specific joy that only exists in places where children feel safe enough to be loud. Naruto closed his eyes, listened, held the sound in his chest, the way you hold a truth you never want to forget. This was what power was for, not destruction, not dominion, not the erasure of everything that offended or threatened or challenged. This, one child laughing in the evening of a village that would still be standing tomorrow. He opened his eyes. The stars were coming out. He stood, stretched, turned toward the path that led down from the monument, back to the streets, back to the people, back to the life that waited for him at the bottom of this hill and every hill after it. The night was young. The world was whole. And Naruto Uzumaki, the Crimson Satan, the seventh Hokage, the soul that had crossed dimensions and lifetimes to find something worth protecting, walked home through the starlight with the absolute, unshakable certainty that tomorrow would be worth waking up for. It always had been. It always would be.
There you have it, the complete Crimson Satan movie that wrecked the Naruto world in the best way possible. Thanks for watching, you absolute legends. Smash subscribe for more insane crossovers, what-ifs, and balls-out fanfic hype. Drop a like if Naruto just became your new god. Peace.